Hello, penguin butt. How are you doing? A slow nugget. I hope you feel better, dude. Just stop bunking your brain. It's not good. It's not healthy, right? Hello, Dan. What's up? How you doing, buddy? Squeaky's jealous already. Yeah, that sucks. You know, Dan, it's like you come to my stream and then you're surprised that it's me. Did you expect somebody else? Oh, jeez. Dang, you smoked yourself good. Are you gonna be more careful next time? Hello, Nixit. You forgot that word? Yeah, that's you need to learn that word. Simpaticos will be there one day and you'll be locked up somewhere. Oh, it's just, yeah, Trevor will be here streaming. Yeah, he's got a deep voice. He'll be like, yeah, I'm streaming here for Luke. We're taking donations. When we reach $5,000, I'll let him go. If we don't get to $5,000 before the end of the stream, he's toast. A YouTube poll on death or dying? Which one was that? When did I do that? Was that recent? Was it a poll or was I asking people ideas? Oh, I know what you're talking about. Oh, I haven't looked at it yet. I'll go through it once I get ready to look at that video. I have some idea. So a lot of times what I do, so I don't know everything, obviously, and there are some things I have a few answers to, but I like to get other people's thoughts on things as well. So sometimes before I do a video, I like to poll people and get other ideas and stuff and see what other people do, you know, that might be really good ideas as well. And that way I can give a more fully developed video. And so that was one of the things that I have a few things that I do to make death and dying have consequences and stuff, but I wanted to know what other folks did as well, because I might get some really good ideas that I can share with like the wider community, you know what I mean? So I'll do that from time to time and get some ideas. But I usually don't review the ideas that folks left until I'm ready to actually script the video, because then I'll actually write it down and stuff, you know? I you know, batch my work together. Otherwise, you know, I don't have time to read it and then not script it and then come back later and read it a second time when I script it. So I just do it all at once. Beard, what's up, dude? My traps are the bomb. Well, thank you. If you're referring to the traps in the April Patreon PDF, those traps I think were made by Subcycle, one of my community members here. So thank you, sir. And I believe it was Subcycle who deserves the true praise. I think those are the ones he made. It's hard for me to keep track of who made what, because we are literally working on the content for June and July right now for the DM Layer magazine, the Patreon PDF. So I cannot keep track of who made what. What we're gonna start doing, I decided this a couple days ago. What we're gonna start doing is we're gonna start putting bylines, not just at the very beginning, but like after each entry, it'll have a byline of the person who wrote the thing, of the freelancer or contributor, who made the article or the entry or whatever you want to call it for the magazine. So we're gonna start doing that so that it'll be a lot easier for folks to see, you know, who created everything. So because we're getting more and more of the magazine is made up from, you know, what freelancers contribute and stuff like that. And it's less of stuff that I'm personally making myself. Why did the alt names of the new magic items start with D? We had 3 of them or so that we had done, and they just by happenstance had started with a D. And so we just decided partway through the stream on Friday to just do the rest of them with D. So like we just decided every single one's gonna start with a D. I don't know, we just whimsically decided to do that. Yeah, we thought it would be funny. What's up, Pakon? I cannot avoid you. Skip. I'm not avoiding you. I swear. Why is it not showing my hold on a second. There it is. Okay, beautiful. Whew. See, Zachary, thank you for the prime, dude. I appreciate that. Oh, you had to go to sleep? Okay, well, that's fair. Sun Fixer says, I don't know a lot about D&D, but I always stop by to see the kitty cam. We have some kitties tonight. I had 7 cats staring at me not too long ago. And I was like, why do I have 7 cats staring at me? Literally, all 7 of them were gathered over here, like looking at me. And I'm like, why do I have... Oh, I didn't give them any food. So like I usually give them food a couple times a day. And I had forgotten to do it at my normal time. And so they were all just staring at me. And then I was like, what? Oh, okay. Oh, I should go give them food. Yeah. Why is Orange's name not first? I take it Orange is your favorite. Is that it, Dan? Oh, there's a cat trip. There's a cat strike. Thank you, D&D Scotty. Thank you, Nixa. Appreciate that. He's your cat? Well, this is, you know, Ed apparently has laid claim to Little Guy, and now Dan wants Orange. I don't know how I feel about you guys wanting to take my cats. I wonder how the barbarian would sound feeding your cats.
Oh, come here, little kitties. Let me give you some food. I'm gonna give you lots of food so you can put it in your faces and get fatter. Yeah, come here. Oh, you're so fluffy. I love you. Here, have some food, fatheads. Ah! Oh, the big belly. Oh, it's a big belly. Ah!
And all the cats are hiding. Okay, let's start this beast. Start this beast going. Gotta get the beast going. Oh, there's the button. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. What's going on? Welcome to the live stream. Tonight we are going to be doing some Q&A. I have a plan tonight. I have a program tonight. I have some news items that I jotted down that we're going to be taking a look at tonight. We're gonna look at the new Unearthed Arcana Folk of the Feywild that was released a few weeks ago or something. We're gonna just kind of look through it, take a look at it, take a look at some news items I found when I typed in D&D news, and just talk about some crap, answer questions, all that sort of stuff. So that's what we're doing tonight. Hanging out 3 hours. Yes, I am recording. Thank you, Wolfpool. Yes, so it'll be about a few hours or so of us just hanging out, talking D&D, all that good stuff. So that's what we got going on tonight. It's gonna be nice and chill. Loco Cereal, thank you for the prime, dude. I appreciate that. All right, sweet. So the first thing I want to do before we jump into the program is I want to talk to you a little bit about, that's right, my Patreon PDF. But I have a little bit of an announcement for you folks. We have recently rebranded the Patreon PDF, and we are no longer going to be calling it the Patreon PDF, because honestly, Patreon PDF sounds so super lame.
They're all get my Patreon PDF.
So we're literally making a monthly D&D magazine. It's a magazine. So I figure, hey, we should probably just call it a magazine, and every magazine needs a name. So our magazine is called Layer Magazine. This right here is the cover of the May issue of the magazine, which will be coming out in May, of course. So I kind of was like, I was thinking about what I wanted to call the magazine, and I was like, I know that Dungeon magazine was a thing and was really cool. And I had a subscription to Dungeon back when I was in like, I think it was like high school or something like that. Like right when I was getting into it, I had a subscription to it and stuff. And so I decided we were going with Layer magazine. So it pays homage in a few different ways. First of all, it pays homage just in the simple fact that you have a dungeon, which is where bad guys live, where monsters live and stuff. They take up residence there. And then you have a lair where also bad guys live and take up residence and stuff like that. Obviously, I'm the DM lair, so lair fits with that, you know. And I had my graphic designer find this cool font that kind of looks a little bit like Dungeon did back in the day, you know. And so we're going with Layer Magazine is going to be it. So this right here you're looking at is volume 5 of Layer Magazine, which is not going to come out until May. This is the May issue right here. So I'm not going to show you a whole bunch of this. We are just getting it through our graphic designer right now. It'll be ready in not too long, but it won't come out in May until May, of course. So anyway, Layer Magazine is what it's going to be. So you had a subscription to Dragon Magazine? Yeah, Dragon Magazine was pretty cool. So that is the grand unveiling of the rebranding and name change. There you go. Where are the nachos? I knew somebody was going to ask about the nachos. I have no response. This is the April issue. This is what just came out for Layer Magazine right here. So I want to just give you a quick little rundown, a little plug of it for you guys. This is available right now over my Patreon too. So if you guys want to get some of this stuff, you can go do it right now. You'll get this issue right here, and then every single month you'll get a new issue of Layer Magazine as well. So this issue right here, we had a bunch of adventure ideas at the tier 1. So these are just little ideas you can take and implement into your game. You got to obviously flesh it out and stuff, but it gives you a starting point to get into your games with. And then we have the traps. Also, these traps, somebody was saying they loved the traps, and they were probably referring to these traps right here, which I think Subcycle, it's false advertising. Oh, because I said nachos. I think Subcycle made these traps. I could be wrong. I can't keep track of things. We're going to put bylines in the newer issues of Layer Magazine too, to help give credit to our contributors. So we have a bunch of traps in here that you can take and put in your game. All new traps, all really cool traps, I might add. They're not just like, you know, spikes shoot out at you type traps. And then we have a bunch of different magic armor. I think Ed made this magic armor as well. So we have a bunch of different magic armor in here. And then we have the adventure, The Undying Brain, which takes place in some catacombs. There are, I think we have, what was it? I think we used Sawagan in this one. And then there is, I think, an Archmage at the end of it. It's a level 7 adventure. Maps, of course, we have beautiful maps. These are just little encounter maps that will take place in a swamp people are traveling along. And there's read aloud text. There's obviously read aloud text. I love read aloud text. All of my adventures have read aloud text in Layer Magazine. I would not publish an adventure without read aloud text because it makes the Dungeon Master's life so much easier. And this is an example of one of our maps right here. All of our maps in Layer Magazine are designed for virtual tabletop, and you don't just get the PDF, you also get the image files of the maps as well. You have gridded versions, ungridded versions, high resolution, a little bit lower resolution so that your browser and Roll20 and stuff can handle it. We have labeled ones and unlabeled ones. So you get all of these files as well. And this is going to facilitate your ability to run these games online with your friends. So you get all that stuff, some more adventure here. Tier 3 here had puzzles in it, a bunch of puzzles. These puzzles were made by, I believe, who was our contributors? Ed Robinson made some, and then I think it was Galen Smokescale was the other contributor to these puzzles. So really cool puzzles, by the way. These are kind of in the style of Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. They're written up in a similar way, you know. So if you want puzzles, and I am horrible at making puzzles, first of all, by the way. So if I wanted to use puzzles in my game, I would go out and find them, or I would probably just use them from my Patreon PDF from the Layer Magazine. This right here is Bloodstone Strike. This is a level 4 adventure. I ran this with a bunch of people on a live stream a few weeks ago as what my moderators. I think I ran my moderators through this adventure. And level 4 adventure, it takes place in a mine. You get to fight some devils, demons, and some nasties at level 4. It's really cool. And then this map right here is by the Mad Cartographer. Really high quality maps as well, available in, you know, all the image files. You get all the image files so you can run it on virtual tabletops and make your life really easy. So right there, that's a rundown of everything that was in the April PDF that is available right now. It's Layer Magazine, not the PDF. So you can get that right now. So it's very, very cool stuff. I'm very proud of the content we're putting out. And in fact, I just had somebody in chat saying about how they were prepping one of the adventures from Layer Magazine, and they were saying how easy the prep was, that it was really easy and it wasn't complicated and convoluted like some of the other adventures you might get are. You know what I'm talking about. There's a whole bunch of crap to read, and it may or may not be useful for the game, and you got to kind of wade through a bunch of text and stuff. So part of my goal in publishing this resource is to make game prep easier for dungeon masters. So there you go. There's my plug. Go check it out. Whee! All right, there. And then we're going to, I got to put all my folks, all my awesome patrons up on screen here. These folks here help support the channel, and I am super appreciative of everything they do. I'm out of coffee here. Oh, you like the maps? Awesome. Yes. It's awesome to, yeah, D&D brings people together. That's what I love about D&D. It brings people together. It forges friendships. It gives you something to do besides just sit around and eat hamburgers, which is not a bad thing, you know, but if you can sit around and eat hamburgers or pizza and play D&D, it's so much better. Oh, Lukai, what's up? How you doing, buddy? I can't wait until offline RPGs become. Oh, Ambers, you have no idea. I miss playing offline. I really want. Once we can play together again, my Curse of Strahd game, we're going offline, and I know that some folks are probably not gonna like that because they won't be able to watch it as easily on stream. But we will be going offline again. I love playing offline. It's the camaraderie. There's so many. It's much, for me personally, it's way better than playing online. Offline in person is so much better. It's just, yeah. So, but you know, things are what they are right now, and not a whole lot you can do about them. All right, these folks right here get a verbal name shout out because they are super, super awesome. So here we go. 5e Magic Shop, Arutha, Beoban, Brad A, Brian C, Brand C, I'm gonna mix those around, Candy Sora, Chris H, Chris Y, Cody B has left the building, Dresna L, Edward L, Ed R, Endorian 72, Eric S, Fallon Goliath, Cleric, Hydra Slayer, Ian R, Izzy T, Jacob S, Jake L, James L, Jeremy W, Joel L, Joshua G, Joseph H, Josue S, Kale S, Karen C, Kezides, Kyle M, Kiriako, Leopold X92, Lord Kamiak, Lori S, Luke G, Mad Quad, Michael C, Michael H, Munlo V, Owen D, Paul B, Paul R, Penguin Butt, published author. Published author does some of our maps too. Very, very good maps. Race W, Rachel S, Ramsey M, Richard M, Robert W, Rock and Roll Joe, Ron H, Ryan G, Sakura, Scott C, Simon, Snapbragger, Sophie M, Son of a Sofa Man, Stetson H, Stephen F, Tactical Tokens, The Old DM, The Pickle, Tar, Theta Tag Tim, Black Tony M, Tooth and Nail, Rules, Tyler N, Tyler R, Xavier H, William L, thank you very much. Whee! Okay. All right, let's rock and roll. Rock and roll time. All right. We are going to, the first thing I wanted to do tonight is we're going to answer questions. Hey, Senior Fox, what up, dude? How you doing, buddy? We are going to be answering questions. So go ahead and post your questions. My moderators will be grabbing your questions. I'll be putting them into a spreadsheet, so I will be able to grab them and answer them later. We can't get to everything, obviously, but we try to do the best I can. So there's Penguin Butt with her explanation of don't spam. I love Penguin Butt. Don't spam. We're going to answer questions a little bit later. I want to go through a couple news items that I found online I thought were interesting. We take a look at a couple things. I need to get some coffee first. Hold on a second. You can watch the cats for like 30 seconds. Oh, they're all off camera. Okay. I literally have 3 cats just sitting here next to me, but they're all right here below the camera. I don't know why they're all like getting camera shy. All right, let's go over to here. What was I gonna look at? Oh yes, we're gonna look at Folk of the Feywild, which is an unearthed arcana that was released. It looks like about a month ago. So I'm a little bit behind here, but we're gonna take a look at this. I've never looked at this before. I'm literally gonna give you my first thoughts, and we're gonna take a look at it together, and we'll see how it goes. I know nothing about it. I have no idea what's in here, but we're gonna take a look at it. It is playtest material. It's unearthed arcana, so I don't expect it to be perfect nor fully balanced. My expectations are it's playtest material. If it were in a published module, I would have higher expectations, you know. So we'll see what it looks like though. Dan says, yeah, you're shocked. You should never be shocked. Oh, there's even a warning here that says this is playtest material. And you know, you're welcome to give them feedback and stuff like that. All right, this document features 4 new race options to playtest for player characters in D&D. Fairy, Goblin of the Feywild, Owl Folk, and Rabbit Folk. Okay. Creating your character. Yep. Ability score increases. Okay. Got it. Languages, creature type. Yep. I know what those things mean. What does it say? What is this? Oh, okay. Well, hold on a second. This is interesting. We're getting into something that might be interesting here. It says design note. The creating your character section provides special character creation rules for the race options in this article. The races that use these rules can coexist seamlessly with races that use other rules. Okay, we're talking about rules and we're talking about in-game coexistence. They're 2 separate items. One is meta, one is in character. So of course they can exist seamlessly. There would be no question that they couldn't. For example, the race options in the player's handbook have built-in ability score increases, which I like, while the races in this article don't. Okay, so that's all right. Race options from both sources can adventure together. Well, why wouldn't they be able to? It's just rules. We're just talking about rules. The rules that you use to create a character don't have anything to do with whether they could adventure together or not in the game. I could take a character that I created from D&D and it could go into a Pathfinder game theoretically. It might be a little bit shoddy or it might be difficult to figure out how the rules work, but I could do it. There's nothing to say that I couldn't, you know. So there's absolutely 0 correlation between those 2 items anyway. But just in case you were wondering, it explains that there's no correlation. If you'd like a race that doesn't appear in this article, such as an elf or a dwarf, to have similar ability score flexibility, the book Tasha's Cauldron of Everything provides a rule called Customizing Your Origin, which I don't use in my games, that gives you flexibility. That book also gives you the option of building your own race rather than choosing an existing one. That option is called Custom Lineage. I don't use that one either. No matter which option you choose for your character, a race in this article, a player's handbook race, a race modified by your Customize Your Origin rule, or a custom lineage, you can adventure with characters who are built with a different option. Okay, thank you. This sidebar builds on the design note in our previous Unearthed Arcana, Gothic Lineages. Oh, I have not looked at the Gothic Lineages one. I might have to do that at some point. All right, fairy. I know what fairies are. So we have some characteristics. Okay, that's cool. I love random tables. I love it when they give me these things. Even if I think they're just cool. I always appreciate random tables like this, even if you don't use them, even if you don't roll on it and you pick it. I love random tables. I think they're useful for me. You're Fey, you're small, walking speed is 30. That's a fast walking speed for a small race. Most small races only have a walking speed of 25. Aren't fairies? Well, hold on a second. What size are fairies in D&D Beyond? Are they small? I thought they were tiny. I thought they were tiny. Hold on a second. I'm curious now. Now I'm curious. Let's take a look. Fairy. Wait, is a fairy not here? Am I spelling it wrong? I'm probably spelling it wrong. I spell everything wrong. Is fairy not is it not a monster entry? I know we have sprites. Maybe fairies aren't in here. For some reason, I thought we had fairies. Am I going crazy? Is that how it's spelled? Well, I typed that in. They are. It's all I see is fairy dragon. No, they are. Well, how do I spell it? Because I can't find it. F. I don't think it's in here. Pixie. We have Pixie. We have Pixie or a sprite. Well, those are both tiny. I know those are both tiny. And they can only walk 10 feet. Yeah, I don't think they're in here. Yeah, thank you, Pakan. I agree. They don't exist as a monster. That's all I was trying to figure out. Okay, so they don't exist as a monster. I was just curious. But 30 feet for a small creature is not normal. Don't most small creatures only get to go 25? I think gnomes and dwarves at least. But halflings get 30, I think, don't they? Because they're dexterous. So, it's okay. All right, you have a flying speed. Okay, and you can hover. Oh, wow, and you can hover. Being able to hover is huge when you can fly. Because if you can hover and you get like knocked prone or grappled or something and your speed is reduced to 0, you don't fall. So this is extremely powerful, like to be able to hover, like when you're a flying character. This flight is magical and does not require the use of your wings. So whoa. Okay. I mean, in general, I don't like races that can fly at level 1. If I had a player that wanted to play a race that could fly at level 1, we would do some sort of mechanic whereby they aren't able to fly until the higher levels, and we'd figure out how that works. There's a reason that Adventurers League doesn't allow flying races at level 1. So anyway, Druidcraft and Fairy Fire spells. Fairy Fire is pretty good spell. It's a very good spell. What's your DC for it? Oh, it's Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma. Okay, so you get to pick which one. Okay. You can squeeze through a space as narrow as 1 inch wide? Whoa! 1 inch. Oh, dude, that's pretty. I could see that. Halflings get 25. Yeah, not needing your wings is OP as well. Yeah, because you could tie them up theoretically. If they can hover, you could literally have a fairy tied up, trussed up like a pig, hog-tied. Wings are tied up, hands are tied, everything. And because they can hover, and because they don't need their wings, they could literally just fly up into the air, even if they're tied up. So I think that is way too much. But I think the solution to that is simply to take away the hover ability. I would almost say you got to use your wings. You need to use your wings. Well, I don't know. I don't want to homebrew it and stuff like that. It doesn't really matter. It's enough to say that I feel that it's very powerful to be able to do that. Okay. Anyway, besides that, and this right here, honestly, the Fey Passage, I can envision players finding very creative and useful, let us say, ways of using that. You're in a dungeon, 1 inch spaces, being able to squeeze through them, you know what I mean? Yeah, I could see a lot of versatility there. That would be very, very helpful. If you had if you created a fairy rogue, I could see some really cool stuff you could do. So I don't know how I feel about that. I definitely feel that this is certainly a powerful race to start with. It doesn't give us any guidelines. Oh, that's right. They aren't going to tell us the ability score increases. So generally speaking, ability score increases, you get like one of your ability scores goes up by 1, and then one of them goes up by 2, right? So according to the parameters they're putting around here, you could probably, I would imagine, increase your ability scores, one ability score by 2 and one by 1. And you could probably pick whichever ones you want. I kind of feel being a fairy, one of them, the +2 should probably go to dexterity or something. And the +1 as a racial modifier would probably go to like, something's telling me either intelligence, wisdom, or charisma. Might be charisma, because fairy are usually, you know, a charismatic race. I feel that's my conception of them, at least. Maybe not intelligence, maybe wisdom or charisma. I don't know, one of those two. And I could see intelligence. How much room under the door? Oh, I can see it. How much room is under the door? Well, there's only a half an inch. Why is it that every door in this entire world has only a half an inch clearance? Well, that's because there's a new race called Fairy, and they have this Fey passage thing that's very powerful. Oh, okay. So now you see. Anyway, it sounds cool, but I think if I were to allow it in my game, I'd make some tweaks to it. Hobgoblin Traits. You are a humanoid. Medium walking speed 30. You can see him dim light within 60 feet. Okay, so we have dark vision. You have advantage on saving throws you make to avoid or end the charmed condition on yourself. Okay, that's cool. Fey Gift. You can use this trait to take the help action as a bonus action. Oh, I don't like that. I don't like. Oh, well, it has a limit to it. It has a limit to it. You can do so. You can do so a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and it's a long rest. Okay, that's not that big of a deal. If you were able to do that, if you were able to use the help action as a bonus action with no limits, I would say that's way too powerful, because you'd be granting advantage to somebody on every single one of your turns, and that's way too powerful. But they put a limit on it, which is proficiency bonus, which I feel is fair. So that's not that big of a deal. It's cool, but it's not super overpowered. And then it says, starting at 3rd level, choose one of the options below each time. My cat. Hey, you want to shut up down there? He wants attention. This is little guy, by the way. Will, what's up, dude? How you doing? Yes, the woof. I totally agree. Fey passage could really mess up a DM. I feel like that's one of the things that I would probably tweak quite a bit, for sure. If I were to allow this race, that's just that's a little bit too much. And of course, the classic response that many people are going to say is, well, you know, you don't have to nerf it and change it. You're the dungeon master. You should use your creativity and stuff to change it, you know, to change your game world, to challenge the players more. You know, you should use your creativity and stuff. That is an unsatisfactory response. You know, that is not root cause problem solving. You know, I, as the dungeon master, dungeon masters everywhere already do lots of work. Okay, to force upon them even more work because of something that is too powerful is not fair to dungeon masters. And you already have too few dungeon masters. They already have to do way too much work. So I feel like putting more work on them is not fair. My preference would be to change what's actually the issue. You know what I mean? If it becomes an issue. There's the goofy voice. Paka, that's kind of what I do. That's kind of what I do around here. Okay, anyway, back to Hobgoblin. Where were we? Okay, starting at 3rd level, choose one of the options below each time you take the help action, whether it's a bonus action or an action. Okay. Hospitality. You and the target of your help action each gain a number of temporary hit points equal to 1d6 plus your proficiency bonus. So it's limited to like 3 to 5, so it's 3 times per long rest. You can give you and the target of your help action gain this. That's very good. I don't know that that's too powerful, but it's very good. I will say that it's very good. You and the target of your help action each increase your walking speeds by 10 feet until the start of your next turn. I see no problem with that. You're probably going to be engaged in melee anyway, so being able to walk a little further is probably going to be a moot point because you're in melee. Spite. Until the start of your next turn, the first time you or the target of your help action hits a creature with an attack roll, that creature has disadvantage on the next attack roll that it makes within the next minute. That's really good. If you're in a boss fight and you use that against the boss dude and force him to roll at disadvantage a few times, that's really going to help you. But you got to save it up. You only get to do that like 3 times per long rest. And honestly, I foresee that this is a no contest. I feel like players would probably almost always get the temporary hit points because temporary hit points are super useful. So I don't know that you're even going to use the other two. This one's really good. The passage is mostly useless. This one here is pretty good too. Situationally, this is very good. Temporary hit points will always be useful. So I could definitely see using that. Okay. So far we're trending toward a powerful race, but not horribly powerful. Fortune of the Many. If you miss with an attack roll or fail an ability check or a saving throw, you can draw on your bonds of reciprocity to gain a bonus to the roll equal to the number of allies you can see within 30 feet of you, maximum +5. You'll almost surely get like a +3 or +4. You can use this trait a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended use as you finish on a long rest. I don't mind that. I'd rather they get that than advantage, because advantage is much more powerful. So I think that's okay. So I think my final take on Hobgoblin is it seems a little bit, it's definitely one of them. It's a pretty good race. I would allow a player to play it as is and then tweak it as needed if I felt that it needed to be tweaked during gameplay. The Fairy, I would almost assuredly homebrew a couple things out of the gate. But Hobgoblin doesn't seem too terribly, like there's some races you're like, whoa, holy crap. This one's like, that's good, but we could probably see how it goes and then tweak it if needed. So I don't mind that too much. Yeah, this is the Folk of the Feywild, Unearthed Arcana that we're looking at right now. This came out like a month ago. I'm behind. Owlfolk. Okay, now we're actually going to read this because I don't even know what owlfolk are. Distant kin of giant owls, owlfolk come in many shapes and sizes, from petite and fluffy to wide-winged and majestic. Owlfolks have arms and legs like other humanoids, as well as wings that extend from their back and shoulders. Okay, because of their ancestors of the Feywild, they can innately see the magic of their surroundings. They're graced with feathers that make no sound when they move or fly, making it easier for them to sneak up on you in the library. Ooh, that sounds scary. Why are they sneaking up on me in the library? All right, come on, what's going on here? Gonna steal my books? Your owlfolk character might be nocturnal, or perhaps your character is simply prone to rise later, embodying the common nickname of Night Owl. Oh, that's fun. The adventuring party is at a stale. They're like, we can't go anywhere because the owlfolk won't get out of bed. Like, we can't adventure. We can't go anywhere. What are we gonna do? He's sleeping. They're like, God, just stuff him in a sack and take him with us. To catch Colonel Mustard with the candlestick? Yes. That's awesome. Okay, you're a humanoid. You're medium or small. You choose the size when you gain this race. Okay. Walking speed is 30. Dim light within 90 feet? Ooh, that's really good. 90 feet, dark vision is pretty good. Magic sight. Your keen senses can focus to see the presence of magic. You gain the ability to cast the detect magic spell, but only as a ritual. Okay, who casts detect magic as a non-ritual? I've been DMing for a while. I think I've only ever seen detect magic cast as a ritual. I'm just throwing that out there. It's not a knock on this. It's just kind of funny. Detect magic might as well only exist as a ritual. I've never seen it cast as a normal spell. I don't think I have. And you can also cast a spell normally with any spell slots you have. Okay. Nimble flight. Ooh. Thanks to your wings. Okay, we're gonna let you use your wings and not magic. Okay. You have a flying speed equal to your walking speed, which is 30. When you fall, you can use your reaction to make a dexterity saving throw, DC 10. That's easy to make. To stop falling and unless you roll really badly. To stop falling and fly in place until the start of your next turn. That's pretty good. Silent feathers. You have proficiency in the stealth skill. I see nothing. I would allow this. I see nothing overpowered about this. When I think of races, I would look at the half elf. The half elf race gives you a boatload of awesome stuff. +2 to charisma, +1 to any 2 ability scores. You get 2 additional proficiencies, What else do you get? Half Elf is just such a good race. I almost always try to play Half Elf when I can. It's such a good race. So yeah, I don't see any problem with Owl Folk as far as it being too powerful. It's kind of like when I think of like classes, I think of Paladin as being like my measuring rod of power. And I almost see Dwarf is very good. Dwarf is a very powerful class too. Dwarf and Half Elf are both very powerful races in my opinion. Very, very good ones. They appeal to me in my min-maxing crusade of glory, at the very least. So anyway, nothing OP or anything about Owl Folk. Rabbit Folk. Bounding across the wilds, Rabbit Folk from the Feywild embody a spirit of freedom and travel. Rabbit Folk are bipedal with the characteristic long feet of the animal they resemble and fur in a variety of colors. They share the keen senses and powerful legs of leporin creatures and are full of energy like a wound up spring. Rabbit Folk are blessed with a little fey luck, and they often find themselves a few fortunate feet away from dangers during adventures. Oh, I feel a lucky trait coming on. I feel something like lucky coming on. We shall see. You are humanoid. Medium or small, walking speed 30. Hair trigger. You add your proficiency bonus to your initiative rolls. Okay. You have proficiency in the perception skill. Lucky footwork. When you fail a dexterity saving throw, you can use your reaction to roll a d4 and add it to the result, potentially turning the failure into success. Okay, that's not that big of a deal. If you use a reaction, it's just a d4. You have to roll a caltrop. Caltrops suck. Rabbit hop. Once during each of your turns, when you walk at least 5 feet, you can hop, rolling a d12 and moving that many feet in a direction of your choice. This extra distance doesn't cost movement, but you can only hop if your speed isn't 0. Whoa. Hold on a second. Let's do some math. Hold on. Luke's got to think about that one, because I see the potential for some crazy movement, unless I'm interpreting this wrong. So we're gonna look at a piece of paper here, and we're gonna do a little bit of math, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so I have a movement speed of 30 feet. Every 5 feet, I get to move an additional d12. You guys, does anybody see the innate problem with this? I'm rolling a d12. While I love d12s, and the iterations thereof, like a 1, 2, 4, 6, 10, 11, do not work on the grid. We use 5 feet grids in D&D, so d12 doesn't make any sense for this. I'm just gonna throw that out there. So if you're doing theater of the mind, you still want to work in increments of 5 at the very least. You don't want to like, oh, you moved 1 foot. What does that mean? I rolled a 1. I get to roll an additional foot? Okay. So for game as far as game mechanics go, that doesn't make sense considering existing game mechanics. So I'm just going to put that out there. But let's roll with this and see what we get. So let's just say that for every 5 feet, I get to move an additional d12. Now the average on a d12 is 6.5. But let us just assume for argument's sake that on average, you're gonna get 5 additional feet. So what that really means is you're gonna move 5 feet, you're gonna roll a d12. You're probably gonna get an average of 5 feet more of movement. Let's just make this simple. To move 10 feet. You're gonna move 5 feet, you're gonna roll a d12 again. Oh, and then we're gonna move another, so we get to 20. So every 5 feet that I move, I'm rolling a d12. Now, at the end of the day, what that's going to mean is that my 30 feet movement speed really just turned into 60 feet on average. Okay. Now, it does say, the extra distance doesn't cost movement. Okay. So basically, instead of having a movement speed of 30 feet, we gave this race a movement speed of 60 feet. Okay, that's super good. I can see having a monk. This is so well suited to a monk and getting crazy fast movement speed, having battlefield control. You would be very good at that. So you're not getting a whole lot of other things. Wait, hold on a second. Is there anything else for this race? No, that's it. So that's really all you're getting for this race. That doesn't seem like, my gut tells me it's not that big of a deal. However, can you imagine how this looks in gameplay? Do you have any idea what this is going to look in gameplay? Every time this rabbit wants to move, I move 5 feet, I roll a d12. I move again, I roll a d12. I move again, I roll a d12. You're going to roll a d12 6 times just to move. That's going to slow down gameplay. So my personal opinion, for using it at the table and having a smooth combat and stuff like that, this is going to slow down gameplay a little bit, you know, and it's a cool mechanic and stuff. Okay, right. But I think when you consider the slowdown to gameplay, the fact that you're using a D12, which doesn't make sense in a game that is based on 5-foot increments of movement, there are some things here. I would probably homebrew this a little bit to make it easier to run at my table. I would honestly, to make my life easy. No, you can move up to 60 feet. You can move up to 60 feet. It literally says, once, oh, holy crap, Luke's a moron. I didn't read it properly. It says, so my whole explanation is invalidated now because I went back and read the instructions. Once during your turns, when you move at least 5 feet, you can hop, rolling a d12. So you're only gonna do it once. Okay, so you're gonna get to go maybe an additional 10 feet, roughly. Okay, so all of my calculations here. Let's go back to all of this. Wait, that's the wrong one. Come on, where's my coffee cam? All of my calculations here. You just ignore that. Just ignore that. You're probably gonna get to move instead of 30 feet because you get to hop. You're probably gonna get to move about 35 feet. Maybe if you get a lucky roll, 40 feet on a turn. Not a big deal whatsoever. Not a big deal. It is still kind of silly that you're rolling a d12 because we're not using a base 12 system in movement. We use a base 5 system, you know. But not that big of a deal. Okay, so then, in my opinion, then you have some game mechanics that are a little weird, but I think this is pretty fine. I don't see this being super overpowered or problematic at all. Yeah, I would allow this little rabbit. I could see this little rabbit being like a monk and then just like whapping people with its big feet. Or its ears. It could do a hurricane spin with its ears. Just smoking people. It's awesome. Okay, so there you go. Final evaluation of Folk of the Feywild. I feel that the fairy is a little powerful. I would make some tweaks to Fairy Flight. I would probably make some tweaks to Fey Passage because I feel like that is probably going to cause Dungeon Masters some headaches right there. Hobgoblin of the Feywild, I think it's a good class or a good race. I would allow it as is. Keep an eye on it, make tweaks if needed, but it doesn't seem to be a big deal. Owlfolk is certainly, I don't see anything overpowered with Owlfolk. And Rabbit Folk seems fine to me. I would allow them as is, those guys, and then, you know, it's playtest material, so you tell your players, I am allowing this content, but we're going to keep an eye on it, and if things come up during gameplay, it is my prerogative to change things and stuff. And I would suggest having a conversation with your players before just changing stuff and coming to a mutual agreement, get them to have buy-in and stuff. So that's would be my opinion on these things. Allow them to make tweaks and changes, but you do want to set the expectation from the outgo. You want to make it clear to them that it's playtest material and we might make changes based upon gameplay. You set that expectation. Let them know that could come. It's very important to set expectations and let them know ahead of time. That way, when it happens, they're not surprised and it's more easy for them to accept that. If you don't set the expectation, then they might get upset when you decide to change some stuff because it's too overpowered. So I do recommend you set the expectations first. Before just allowing players to use it. But anyway, those are my first thoughts and my first opinions on Folk of the Feywild Unearthed Arcana. So some interesting options for you to play. I personally would have liked them to give us, you know, the innate ability score modifiers that would be appropriate to those 4 species. But I as a dungeon master, I can create those myself and tell my players what it is if I want to. So that's not a big deal. I feel like this is probably going to be the new gold standard. Probably any species, that race that they publish is probably not going to have ability score modifiers going forward. I feel like they're setting a standard here. They're setting like the gold standard here of not giving those parameters at all. And they have reasons for that. Yeah, they have reasons. But it's easy enough for me as a dungeon master to add those species modifiers in if I want to. I wish they would really just stop calling these species races. I feel like they would be doing themselves a world of good by changing their terminology, because I feel like folks are getting wrapped up around the word races in describing these things, and they're having reactions to that. These are literally different species. I think if you called them species, I think that would distance wizards perhaps a little bit from some of the stuff that they're embroiled in and dealing with right now. And it would be more accurate to describe these species if we call them species. If you look at Pathfinder, they've gone to calling them, what do they call them? Ancestries? Ancestries. They call them ancestries. So they're avoiding the whole thing, which is probably wise. All right, so that was Folk of the Feywild. Boom, boom, shakalaka. So Mr. Gorks says it seems like they're leaving that open to the player for customization. That's not the real reason that they're taking away those things. That's like a reason that they're giving for taking away those things, but that's not the real reason. That's not the actual reason that they're taking away the racial modifiers to ability scores. That's not the real reason at all. It's one of their talking points, right? One of the reasons that they're pushing, but that's not the actual reason. It's not the actual reason. I actually have an article right here that I was considering looking at tonight that talks about their real reason for taking those things away. Because there's almost always a real reason people do things, and then there's the reason they tell you, right? And sometimes there's truth in what they tell you, and sometimes there's the real reason, which they don't exactly tell you, but they might tell you, but they might push the other reason a lot more for reasons, yeah, let's take a look at the article. So here's the thing. I'm going to look at this article, and we will get to Q&A. We will get to Q&A, I promise you. I just wanted to hit some of these cool little news items first. I'm going to look at this article. We're going to read through it and stuff, but I'm probably not going to give any of my thoughts and opinions on these things. It's the things in this article start to trend very heavily into political and social issues and stuff, and I do not like embroiling myself in those things. So I'm just going to kind of stay out of that. We'll take a look at the article. We'll read some things. But Luke is going to keep his opinions to himself for my cats and for my wife. So we're just going to put it that way. Let's see. Okay, so I have it here. So let's go over here. Yeah, customization is the cover story, and we're going to get to some of the reasons right here. Sorry for all the ads. World of Warcraft. Ah! I should install an ad blocker. I asked my moderation team to recommend to me ad blockers, and they gave me a bunch of good recommendations, and I was too lazy or too busy to go install an ad blocker, but whatever. I actually don't mind it. Like, these guys put effort together to make this site and stuff, and the ads help pay them. I really don't mind them making money. I just ignore the ads. So whatever. It's not a big deal. Okay, so this is the news article. When was this published? Did they tell me when this was published? Okay, here we go. So this was published not too long ago. D&D 5e lead designer. Is that Jeremy Crawford? I'm pretty sure that's Jeremy Crawford. says improvements to racial depictions will take several years to fully implement. After inclusion of character creation options in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. And let me do some zoomy. A lead designer for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition has reassured that the RPG's changing approach to racial depictions will not end with its latest sourcebook. Its latest sourcebook was Tasha's at the time of this publication. In a chapter of Tasha's, players were able to create characters without the inclusion of specific traits previously attached to each race in the tabletop RPG. Several fans have since expressed disappointment at how little the addition of a custom lineage option addresses the criticisms leveled at the game concerning its handling of racial stereotypes. Several fans. Okay, so several fans, a handful of people? What does this mean? If it's literally a handful of people, like we don't change the course of an entity based upon a few people's opinions. But I don't know exactly how many people. Anyway, we're not going to click this link. Half of Twitter. Okay, so several fans refers to half of Twitter, according to Ed. Okay, we'll roll with that. So hold on a second. So people on Twitter are getting all worked up. There's nothing new about that. I actually went through a blocking parade, or I just started. I don't go on Twitter a whole lot, but sometimes I do, and people just whine and complain about everything. You know, it's like, and I just went and blocked like tons of people on Twitter. I was like block, and now my Twitter feed is so much more positive. Oh man, I don't need this, you know. So anyway, yeah, just lots of people, and they were like D&D people, and I'm like, I don't. Goodbye. All right, anyway. Jeremy Crawford, principal rules designer. Okay, principal is spelled wrong. It should be PAL. That's the proper usage of it. Staff writer, Alex. Yeah, just letting you know. Principal rules designer and lead designer on D&D 5e. Sorry, I can't help it. I'm a writer. I can't help it. I make the same mistakes. My editor for Into the Fae will tell you that I made many similar stupid mistakes. That's why I hired an editor to find my dumb mistakes. So I shouldn't really be too hard on her. Anyway, principal rules designer and lead designer on D&D 5e's Player's Handbook told Dicebreaker about the intentions behind the expanded character creation options. All right, so one of the motivations was, let's decouple your choice of class from your choice of race. I mean, many people do this, right? I do this. If I want to run a warlock, I'm gonna be a half elf or a race that has like a +2 to charisma. Oh my gosh, could I turn this off? Dude, you need to calm down over there. Our other motivation, what did you leave out here? Was that by doing this, D&D would stop leaning into a theme the game has had since the 70s of particular species. That's actually what you should call them. You should call them species. They are species. That's what they are. Having these innate advantages that really do not speak to the narratives that people want to tell about their own characters. And it is also uncomfortably like the racist narratives in the real world. Okay. So those are his reasons. Okay. Earlier this year, D&D publisher Wizards of the Coast acknowledged that certain races, should call them species, guys, such as orcs and drow, those are species, those are different species, have been derived from racially insensitive and harmful stereotypes. They were? Of real-world ethnic groups that have been and continue to be denigrated? I don't know that they were derived from that. I think people purported that they were, but I don't think there was proof to that. Even though these racist narratives were not the intent of D&D's original design, intent is a whole lot. Intent means a lot. People's interpretation, people can interpret things in a whole variety of ways. And there are some people that look to interpret things in negative ways or in offensive ways. So I place a lot, me personally, when I am when somebody says something to me or does something, I look at their intent way more than I look at my interpretation of it. Was this person's intent to do something or other? Oh, it wasn't? Okay, well then, whatever. If it was their intent to hurt me or to do something to me, that's a whole different story. But if it's just my perception, like, people can perceive and interpret things in a whole wide variety of ways that another person never intended. And I think intent is super, super important, because otherwise somebody could have the purest of intents, but you could have people that just don't like them, that just, they will have an axe to grind, and they just decide to interpret it in the worst way possible. And if you go around your life trying to, walk on eggshells and never do anything that anybody ever could be offended by or anything, you're gonna live a very bland, uninteresting life. So anyway, this isn't necessarily a commentary on what was written. It's just my personal thoughts on intent and people's perceptions. But anyway, the last thing we want in our game is for there to be these real world hurts sneaking into players' experience. Yes, I agree. You don't want, yes, but you can't prevent anybody and everybody either from getting offended. If you try to do that, it's a losing battle. You certainly don't want to do things that are obviously offensive and crazy, but there's a line there somewhere. There's like a balance there somewhere. Otherwise, you're just gonna, you gotta be careful with that. I don't know. Wizards previously circumvented the issue of moral alignments being associated with certain races in Dungeons & Dragons, such as the Dark Elf Drow being traditionally depicted as morally evil, by providing players with the option of ignoring alignments. Crawford admitted the problems with this compromise and the need for further changes to be made. What we've discovered is that this approach, where we were honoring the game's early legacy while also acknowledging that people want to be able to create the characters they want, is that trying to walk that tightrope has not landed effectively. That's not what you were... No, that's not what you were talking about. You were talking about people, like, racially insensitive stuff in the game. So they're talking a lot about racial stuff that's going on. And now we're back to the narrative of people being allowed to create the characters they want. Okay. The lead designer highlighted how recent D&D 5e adventure module Rime of the Frostmaiden did not include an associated moral alignment with its featured Goliath race, as well as how the monsters in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything similarly do not feature alignments. I actually tried to find monsters in Tasha's and I couldn't find them. Players, not Mr. Gorks. Not only do players always had the option to ignore their alignment, they usually do. Some players don't. Some players actually use their alignment for role-playing purposes, which is great. But most players, in my experience, ignore their alignment. They don't even know what it is. They just do what they want to do. And I don't personally have a problem with that. But I think most players have always ignored their alignment. Oh, my phone is dying. I'm just gonna plug my phone in real quick before it totally dies on me, because who knows, my mom might want to call me right now in the stream. Alignment is going to be shifting entirely into a role-playing tool used to describe the moral compass of an individual. Oh, so no races or groups will have alignment whatsoever, but an individual can choose their alignment and then role-play according to it. Okay, I think I understand what he's saying. It's not something we're going to be leaning on as a way to describe entire groups. Okay, so then, see, this is where you get into, like, what about beholders and mind flayers? Are literally all the monsters not gonna have any alignments at all? So, like, no alignments at all. You're just gonna take them all away. All monsters everywhere. Devils and demons can no longer be evil. Like, what do you really mean here? How far does this go? Where's this line? This begs a bunch of questions, and I don't have answers. Because devils are a group. Are you gonna say that devils could be anything and they're no longer evil? you're removing a lot of history and lore and flavor from the game if you were to start doing stuff like that. So I don't know how far this goes. The character creation options included in Tasha's can be found. Yeah, they're on D&D Beyond. Yep. However, Crawford said that the options will not be made available for free under Arcana. Okay, blah, 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 blah. When questioned about what else Wizards of the Coast would be doing to address the problematic elements still present in D&D, Crawford discussed the company's plans for the future and vowed that the additions and the latest sourcebook are part of a larger initiative. Okay, what are those plans? We don't consider what we're doing in Tasha's Cauldron to be the end of our work in this regard. It's actually a part of a much broader set of steps we're taking, which are really going to take several years to fully implement as we change how we treat some of these aspects of the game. Okay, so I've told you nothing, but we're going to do something, and it's going to take years. What kind of changes take years to implement? Like, what are they planning on doing? Crawford also confirmed that Wizards has been working on an upcoming Dungeons & Dragons sourcebook for release in 2021. I don't know what that is. Oh, that might be the Domains of Dread. You can't say that vampires are evil, guys. Vampires can't, they could be anything. Undead, zombies, ghouls, those could be anything. Those are groups. Do not use alignment to describe those groups. This very week, we're putting the finishing touches on a book that comes out next year. That might have been referencing Candlekeep Mysteries because they took all of the alignment out of Candlekeep Mysteries. So, anyway. So, there you go. They're just, those are the changes. Look at this. Dragon Magazine ads. That's because I've been looking at Dragon Magazine images on Google. Because I think they're really cool. And I was kind of, yeah. So, anyway, that's the article. So, that gets into a little bit of our previous discussion, what we were talking about before, about why they are, this gets into the heart more of why they're taking out the racial modifiers of different races being published, like the owl folk and the rabbit folk, and it has to do with, they're wanting to avoid, some of this stuff here that they talked about in here. So they're really just, it sounds like what they're just going to do is it feels like they're going to make most of the races kind of feel more homogenous as far as their game stats go. So, but how far do you go? What are the things? What did he say here? Players were able to create characters without the inclusion of specific traits previously attached to each race in the tabletop RPG. Right, but if we look at some of these new races in here, rabbit folk, they can add proficiency bonus to their initiative rolls, and they have proficiency in the perception skill, and they have lucky footwork. They have a lot of traits here that only a rabbit folk can do. An owl folk can't do them, and a hobgoblin can't do them. So if I were wanting to play something that was like an owl folk but had the traits of a hobgoblin, I can't, according to their rules. This is a similar argument to what they're saying. If I wanted to play an owl folk that has an owl folk has a +2 dexterity, but a hobgoblin has a +2 strength. If I wanted to play an owl folk with a +2 strength, I couldn't because it's not in the rules. Well, the same argument could be applied to any of these traits that are here. So you get to a point where it's like, to what extent does this actually make sense? Because these traits aren't inclusive. Like if I'm an owl folk, I can't do these things. I can only do these things if I'm a hobgoblin. You know what I mean? So there's something here that just, I don't know, it doesn't feel complete. You know what I mean? Like if you want true homogeny, then you have to allow anything for everyone. Like an owl folk could pick from any of these traits from any of the other races and do whatever he wants. You need to have like some sort of system whereby it's a point-based system where you can pick the features and traits from any of the races and apply them to your own. And there are a certain number of points you get to be able to do that, to make sure it's not overpowered or something. And then you can actually accomplish the whole idea of what he was talking about, where you're able to create characters without the inclusion of specific traits previously attached to each race. because all of these races have certain traits attached to them, not just ability traits, there are other traits as well. So unless you move to a system like that, where you could have any name at all and be anything you want, then you're really not achieving this result here. I don't know if that makes sense, but what is the saying? No one can be special if we were all the same. There's some validity to that. I agree. Anyway, a single race, everyone's human. Yeah, everyone is human. Oh, what a boring D&D game if everybody's human. I don't think I ever play a human. I do not like playing humans in D&D. All right, so anyway, there's a little discussion on that stuff for you. I had some other news items that I wanted to look at as well. Beth N, thank you for the Prime. I appreciate that. They want to leave some flavor. Yeah, I don't know. The thing is that no matter what changes they make, the Dungeon Master can always add racial ability modifiers if they want to, you know, and they can always decide to use new rules or not use them, you know what I mean? So the Dungeon Master can ultimately, and you know, you could always, if ultimately you're unsatisfied with these changes and stuff, you know, there's Pathfinder, which has a second edition out. That sounded pretty interesting to me. You have the OSR stuff, which has got a new little jazz going for it, you know, the old school Renaissance stuff. So, you know, you have options out there, things that you can do, you know, if you don't like stuff. So it's their company. They can make whatever changes they want. That's their prerogative. What else was I going to look at? We had some news. What was the news I was going to look at? Okay, so I found an article. I found an article that I thought was really cool. This article is called "The Lost Art of Dungeon Crawling." I'm gonna put this here. I'm gonna put a link there for you guys. I think it linked it. Did that link go through? Why is my link not going through? There we go. I thought this was pretty cool. Who is this guy? Who's the author? Squeaky, quit biting me. Where's the author? Okay, Andrew. This was a really good article. He had some really good points here to make about dungeon crawling. Give the place a reason. Yep. It doesn't have to be an actual dungeon. It can be a castle or something too. It's location based. So when we talk about dungeons, we're actually talking about location based adventures. What just happened here? What just happened? Why did my face and stuff all disappear? Where did my face go? All my cameras and stuff just kind of left. Hold on a second. What happened to my stuff? Where did my overlay go? I must have... Oh, whoops. I see what I did. I see what I did. There we go. I goofed up in OBS. Okay. Where did my face go? Ah! Hey, Danny, what's up? How you doing? Don't make fun of me, Danny. I will track you down. Don't make fun of me. So we're talking about location-based adventures. Don't construct it with only one path. Yes, you don't want a linear dungeon. There need to be multiple paths. I talked about that in my video today. It's very good. Corridors or rooms too. Yes, they don't just connect the rooms. Stuff can happen in them. Add mystery, not just monsters. Yes, you want to have exploration elements, traps, hidden things, secret doors. You want that stuff. Make sure there are a variety of encounters. Yes. Don't skimp on the role play because it's a dungeon, because it's location based. You can have role play inside of it. Make every door worth opening. Let there be So this was a very, very good article. I really like this. So mad props to Andrew Peregrine. So very good article. I like that. Yeah, the entire game is role playing. Yes, absolutely. 100%. I had two more news things that I wanted to hit too that I thought were interesting. So we're gonna look at these really quick. This is CNBC, which I usually do not look at, but this is where I found the article. Dungeons and Dragons had its biggest year ever as COVID forced the game off tables onto the web. We're just gonna hit some of the highlights here. So they had a 33% jump in sales in 2020. Because it talks about how people were playing online and stuff. And also it says that Wizards of the Coast is set to launch 2 D&D video games this year and accelerate the rate at which it publishes new books and box sets. What does anybody know? What video games? What video games is it going to launch? Does anybody know? I'm sure it's in here somewhere. It doesn't say here. So Hasbro is going to launch 2 video games. Sales are up 66%. Overall revenue for Wizards rose 24% in 2020, topping 816 million. Then talkie. Oh, what's this say? At the same time, there was a rise in the number of people live streaming D&D games on video platforms like Twitch. That's because it's so easy to stream on Twitch. Everybody and their mom can stream on Twitch. And posting hours-long sessions on YouTube. Yes. Popular D&D groups like Critical Role, High Rollers, and Relics and Rarities. So this is why an Oxford comma is important, because I understand that you're trying to do AP here, CNBC, but this is exactly why you should use the Oxford comma, because it removes disambiguities. It removes this vagueness. It removes this. So High Rollers is the name of one D&D show, and then the other one is Relics and Rarities. So you need an Oxford comma right there. If you don't have the Oxford comma, it can lead to somebody having an incorrect reading where you say High Rollers and Relics and Rarities. Okay, so this is why AP Style Guide sucks, and you should use Chicago Manual of Style and use Oxford commas. Thank you very much. Thank you, CNBC. Okay, I'm done. Sorry, I'm a writer. I couldn't help it. All right, I'm done. We're gonna keep on reading this. The Shatner comma? I don't know what that is. I don't know what the Shatner comma is. Yeah, Penguin Butt knows. She does some of my editing for me for the Layer magazine, and she knows I like Oxford commas. Roll for initiative. What else were they gonna say? They were gonna say something else in here. High sales, yay. I thought there was something else in here. Make a strength check. Okay, they're also doing really well. Oh, in February, Hasbro reorganized into 3 divisions: consumer products, entertainment, and Wizards of the Coast and digital gaming. Again, Oxford comma would really help you here to make this clearer. This is the second time an Oxford comma would have made your article clearer. So Wizards of the Coast and digital gaming has its own department or its own division. And was there anything else? Okay. Baldur's Gate 3 and Dark Alliance are whoops, no, don't go to Twitter. Are D&D video games arriving this year? Oh, haven't some of these been like betaed or something? Isn't Baldur's Gate 3 already out for like beta or something? I can't. I swear people were talking about playing it. It is. Okay, cool. All right. Has anybody played it? Is it any good? How is it? Is it fun? Is it cool? Because sometimes I think about video games. Anybody here played that? Hey, Loogie, thank you for the Prime, dude. I appreciate that. I'll stick with Planet Zoo. I don't know what that is, Ambers. Glendale says it's very fun. Cool. All right. Dark Alliance. It's like a first person like D&D game, right? So kind of like a first person shooter, only you have a sword, right? Is that kind of what it is like? Is that what the gameplay is like? Yeah, mommy's ready for a cat strike. Yeah, we're way over. Goliath Cleric is just taunting me. Goliath Cleric, that is totally rant bait. Don't tell me that's not rant bait. All right, I think we hit a lot of the main points there. All right, the last bit of news that I wanted to hit that I thought was really cool. I don't know if you guys have heard of Arcadum. Who's heard of Arcadum? He streams on Twitch here in the D&D category. So he started up a new D&D show not too long ago. It sounds like really cool, really pretty soon here. So Arcadum streams a D&D game. He's here on Twitch and stuff. Lots and lots of people watch his stuff. So very popular D&D game. And there's not a whole lot in this article. It literally just says that he's going to start a session 0. So there's not a whole lot here to say about Arcadum in the article itself. But I watched, and he did it. He was on Devin Nash's YouTube channel and also on his Twitch channel. And Devin Nash, who's a dude I watch too, he's got some good content, was interviewing Arcadum, and they were talking and stuff. And Arcadum was talking about his world and how he runs his games and stuff. Lots of really cool stuff. So I really liked what he was saying. And the thing that really cinched it, the thing when I was listening to his interview with Devin Nash, and Arcadum was like, he said something too, that when he said it, I was like, oh, I love you. You are the man. He said, I think what happened, if I remember correctly, Devin Nash referred to social interactions as role playing. And Arcadum was like, whoa, stop right there. He was like, the whole game is role playing. And he went into a little mini rant where he was talking about combat role playing and exploration and the talking bits. Everything is role playing. And when he went into that mini rant, I was like, oh, this is the man. I love this guy. Like, I liked what he said about his world. I liked what he said about his living game, all of his stuff. I liked all of that. And then when he did that rant, I was like, oh, this guy's awesome. So anyway, Arcadum's cool. And he's starting a new D&D game. So there you go. Boom. Shakalaka. All right. I feel like we need to do, hold on a second. I'm going to change my exposure on my camera because it's getting darker out. And I have it on automatic exposure, and I hate auto exposure. But when there's lots of light streaming through my window, I don't have a choice. Give me a hot second. And I will fix this for you. I know it looks weird. There we go. Okay, we're fixed. I like manual exposure. I'm sorry. No, it looks better. Okay, we should, yes. I literally, Mr. Gorks, I literally have Squeaky nipping at my leg. Yes. If you rant, Luke will appreciate you. Noted. Well said, Danny. Mr. Gorks, I totally have Squeaky nipping at my leg. He's literally down here. Yeah, he wants his snack. All right, so we're gonna do a cast strike. I'll get some more coffee. We'll take a little break, and then we're going to do the Q&A. We're gonna start answering questions and stuff. Okay, I know we had a big detour here where we talked about a bunch of stuff, but hey, do something different. It's fun. All right. Here we go. This is what my cats love. Well, I've only got 3 of them. Orange. What's up, Orange? Orange. What are you doing, Orange? All right, I'll be back. But I want to see them waddle around with their cuteness. All right, let's go to our Q&A sheet. All right. Wow. All right, so we're gonna start doing some Q&A. Orange is in the box. Man, they're eating really slow today. Usually I get down here and they're done. No, no more cats came down. No. Goliath Cleric says, I promise this isn't rant bait, but do you prefer writing that uses Oxford commas or writing that leads them out? I obviously prefer writing that uses Oxford commas, or serial commas, they're also called. And follow up, how painful is it to read a paragraph full of comma splices? I hate comma splices. I hate comma splices. Especially from people who call themselves writers and go on and on about how they're writers, and they've been a writer for this, that, and the other, and they've been a writer for years. And then when they publish something, it has a comma splice in the first paragraph. They do Kickstarters and stuff with comma splices, and I'm just like, stop! Get an editor! And quit calling yourself a writer! Yeah, I can't take comma splices. Yeah, I can't do that. Oh, you want to know what a comma splice is? Okay, I will happily talk about comma splices. Okay, comma splice. Let me show you what a comma splice is. So, Dan was a great man. He had a boat. This is a comma splice. So you have two independent clauses. You have verb, subject, and then you have another verb and a subject. And so this is an independent clause. Oops, independent clause. An independent clause has a subject and verb, and it has a complete thought. It has a predicate and nominator, or it's got everything you need there. And you took two independent clauses and you strung them together with a comma. This is not the way you join two independent clauses. You join two independent clauses with a comma and, well, a comma and a coordinating conjunction, which could be and, but, or, nor. I think yet works as well. So you need a comma and a coordinating conjunction. You could also use a semicolon if you wanted to, or you could simply put a period there and then capitalize the next, letter of the word. So these are all acceptable ways to join two independent clauses, but you don't join them with a comma. That's called a comma splice. It is a sign of very amateurish, uneducated writing. It is horrendously, atrociously bad. So I can forgive a lot of typos and stuff from writers because, it happens. I get it. Comma splices are just the worst. You cannot do comma splices and call yourself a writer. I will have no respect for you. And I will deny the fact that you're a writer if you don't know what that is and how to fix it. So there's my rant on comma splices. Man, I'm tired. I'm hungry too. Ah! You just did it. Oh, you just did it. Oh, you're trying to goad me on. Everybody's doing comma splices now. Oh, dude, check this out. I love this. I explained how to do something wrong and that it annoys me, and now everybody is doing it in chat. I love you guys. You're awesome. I mean, it's not like necessarily being a language nerd. It's just being educated in a certain domain, which is writing, you know? Like, if you're properly educated in writing, this is kind of elementary writing principles, you know, basic elementary grammar, you know what I mean? So it doesn't have to do with being a nerd necessarily, as much as it has to do with knowing a domain or a skill, you know, which not everybody knows it, and that's fine. I don't know how to, you know, do computer development. I'm just not educated in that. Other people are really good at it. I'm not. But for people who call themselves writers and do comma splices, there's no forgiveness. You should know better, or you should stop calling yourself a writer because you're making the rest of us look bad. I used to be on a tech writer team, and if I were to bring in a piece of writing that had a comma slice in it and I would show it to them, they would all jump on it and they'd get out their torches and pitchforks, and they'd be like, "Arr!" There would be a whole 1 hour meeting discussion about that comma splice. All right, let's start. We're gonna start answering some of your questions. Penguin Butt says, Luke, I'm not a writer, but I don't do the comma splice. Do I get points? Yes, Penguin Butt, you have lots of points. Well done. All right, we're doing questions now, so if you have questions, feel free to throw them in here. Jonder says, why is Waterfall better than Agile? I mean, Scrum, right? Waterfall. You know, Waterfall and Agile. You want to talk about software development? Yeah, I'm literally a Scrum Master, so I'm obviously going to purport that Agile is better. But I don't know. There might be some mega mammoth projects out there where Waterfall might be a better answer. But for the majority of cases, Agile is going to lead to a better overall product. It's going to lead to happier developers, there's better morale. Overall, the work environment in Agile teams is usually way better than Waterfall, usually from my experience. But obviously, I don't know everybody's experience. I'm sure there are some cases where Waterfall is better for software development, but if Agile will work, then Agile it's a better way to live. It's a better way to live. It really is. This is from someone who had done Waterfall for a while, knew the Waterfall and how it worked and all the pitfalls of it, and then went to Agile and has seen the better world that Agile can be. So anyway, but that for folks who know what that is, yay. Most people have no idea what I just talked about. We build tanks. Tanks aren't Agile. That's awesome. Mr. Gork says I have no idea what's going on right now. It's okay. Most people don't. That's why I don't talk about that. I'm not really an expert on those things. I'm a Scrum Master. That doesn't make me an expert. Anyway, let's go. How do you deal with varied levels of interest between players? So if you mean interest in the game, I kind of don't care. I'm going to run my game the way I run my game. I'm going to put a variety of game elements in there. I'm going to put combat, exploration, and stuff. I'm going to try to do my best to give everybody a little moment. I'm going to try to do my best to take things from their backstories, things that will interest them. I will try to make a game that my players will find fun and entertaining. I'll do my best to do that, you know, with that variety and with trying to give them a little something that they'll like. But at the end of the day, if players aren't super interested in it, like, I'm only going to do so much. There exists the possibility that my game isn't the right game for somebody. And if I'm doing what I'm doing and running the game that I'm running, which tries to, you know, give something that appeals to all the players in the game, but there's still some players that aren't super interested, they aren't super engaged, then my game might not be the right game for them. They might want to go find a different game. Maybe D&D 5th edition is not the right system for them. There's a whole lot of possibilities there. So I'm not going to go too far and worry about it too much. At the end of the day, I'm there to play and have fun as well. And I'm not gonna get too worked up and too uptight about some things, you know, like, oh, this one player, he's just not engaged, and then I'm gonna like beat my head against the wall trying to find ways to interest and motivate him and engage him. Maybe it just wasn't meant to be. I'm not gonna get too worried about that. Like, I want all my players to have fun and enjoy the game, but there's only so far I'm going to go before I'm just like, maybe it's not meant to be. So there's some thoughts. How do you make encounters more challenging besides a lot of monsters? Use poison traps, illusions. I mean, yeah. If you don't just want to make more monsters, you can obviously make more challenging monsters. You can make monsters that have different abilities. You can make monsters that have battlefield control. They do certain things, like they could have hypnotic pattern. They could have hold person. They could use like banishment. Wall of force. Those are all kind of nasty tactics to use against players because it takes them out of the game. So not necessarily recommending those things, but there's a lot of different things you could do in your combats to make them more interesting, to present different problems to be solved, different puzzles in a way to be solved, besides just sacks of hit points that need to be killed. And that's really just up to your creativity and thinking of what those are. I mean, I can't really run down a whole list of examples for you. But yeah, there's different things. You're just gotta be creative about it. What you might consider modules. The modules talk about how to do that stuff. Sometimes modules will they'll give you examples of that sort of thing. I know, and there was this one module that was talking about how these ghouls would come up out of the water, and then they would tie ropes around you, and then the ropes were attached to rocks, and they would push the rocks into these pits of water, and then the players might drown in there. And so that gave like a unique little element to that battle. And that's the sort of thing maybe you want to think of doing from time to time, having your monsters do different weird tactics like that, that will make the battle more interesting than just the ghouls jump up and attack them. So if you have your monsters do different things, like let's say they're fighting on the edge of a ravine, well, maybe your monsters are trying to push the players off as opposed to just attacking them. It's a little more interesting. Maybe they have nets, and then the nets have weights on them, and they're going to try to push them off and make them fall. There's a whole bunch. They can trigger a rock slide or something. So it's just creativity. There's lots of different things you could do to challenge your players in a combat. But you're going to think about it, and you're going to figure stuff out. How do I tell if a player is quiet or just uninterested? And how would I deal with both? Players who are quiet, a player who's quiet, you should routinely try to involve them in the game. So get the other players to quiet down for a second and ask that player, hey, what would you like to do? You know, what would you like to say? Would you like to say anything to the NPC? They were all just discussing some, like, what they want to do next. What do you think? So the dungeon masters should try to make sure that the quiet players get time to speak at the game table. First of all, that's one thing you should be doing. And if they're uninterested, I feel like this is like a little bit of like just emotional intelligence, being able to read people, understand what people are feeling and thinking and stuff like that. If somebody's uninterested, you usually get signs of that. They'll be on their phone. They won't be paying attention. When it's their turn in combat and you ask them what they want to do, they're like, what's going on? Where is everybody? It's clear they weren't like paying attention. If they're uninterested, usually people's minds will wander to other things and they'll stop paying attention, and they might go on their phone and stuff like that, you know? So if you see those telltale signs, then you tell that they're uninterested. If, however, when it's their turn or you ask them a question, they're right on it, they're just a quiet person and they're just, a little bit quiet. There's nothing wrong with that. Lots of players like to just be observers and they aren't very talkative, and it might make them uncomfortable if they're constantly being forced to talk. But you want to make sure you give them space to talk. So give them the opportunity to talk. Get the other people to be quiet for a second. Ask the quiet player what they'd like to do or say. Give them the opportunity. They might not want to do anything or say anything, and that's fine. But give them the opportunity, because sometimes they're just too timid or quiet to, push their way into the conversation when other dominant people won't stop talking. So the dungeon master needs to be sensitive to that and allow everybody to participate in the game. I mean, I do feel, Pakan, I do feel that if you have players who are habitually uninterested, then it begs the question, why are they there? Why are they there, and why do they stay there? I feel like a player who's uninterested and is not enjoying himself and is probably going to leave of their own volition. I don't know why they would stay there. If you're going to a game that lasts 4 hours and you just don't care, like, why wouldn't you leave? You know, I feel like a player would probably just be like, peace out, guys. This is not the game for me. I love you all. You're all great people, but this is not the game for me. And they would peace out, you know, because otherwise, why would you stay? Yeah. How do you handle Curse of Strahd helper NPCs without them feeling like DMPCs? So I haven't gotten to that part of the module quite yet, but my players will eventually get to a helper NPC like that Dusk Drow that's in the Vistani camp south of Valaki, or Esmeralda, or, you know, the Mad Mage, the Wizard. Somebody, there is an NPC that's designed to help them in their battle against Strahd. So in order to not make them feel like DMPCs, probably what I'm going to do is, out of combat, I might roleplay them, right? Because I have all of their knowledge and stuff like that. I might roleplay them. But in combat, there's a high probability that I am going to give that NPC to one of my players to roleplay in combat. That way, because here's the thing, in combat, I personally like to only play the bad guys. I want to play one side in combat. That really helps me as a dungeon master. I have more fun that way. And then I want my players to play the other side. So in combat, I'm almost assuredly going to give them that NPC, Esmeralda, or that Dusk Elf. I forget his name offhand. What is his name? No, it wasn't Luvash. Luvash is the Vistani. I forget his name. Anyway, the Dusk Elf or Esmeralda, they'll probably be able to play them in combat. Out of combat, I will role play them and stuff like that. But they will, the way to make them not feel like a DMPC, one of the classic pitfalls of a DMPC is the dungeon master will make them the hero, and they'll give them the cool magic items, the cool loot, and all of this kind of stuff. And so you don't want to do that. You want that NPC to kind of take the back seat. You want the players and their characters to still be the heroes, to still be leading, to still be making the decisions, to still be deciding where to go and what to do and how to approach situations. And then that NPC that's helping them, that's accompanying them, goes along with what they want to do. They don't really give strong suggestions or their opinions on what they should do next. And if I'm role-playing that NPC and my players ask me, hey, what do you think we want to do next? I'll just probably have the NPC be like, well, I don't know. You know, you guys tell me, what do you think we should do? I'm definitely going to, because here's the issue. When the players ask that NPC, what should we do next? They're asking the NPC, but they're also kind of asking the dungeon master who has all of this knowledge, right? And I could easily somehow use my answer in the NPC to guide them in a certain way in the game world. I don't want to do that. I want my players to decide what they're going to do and where they're going to go next. I don't want to use that NPC to guide them at all. So my NPC is going to defer to them. It's going to tell them, hey, no, you go do this. You make the decision. I just follow you. I'm just going to help you. And so that's how I would roleplay that. To make sure that the NPC doesn't feel like a DMPC that's taking control, that's stealing their agency, that's guiding them, that's too overpowered, or et cetera, et cetera. So that would be the tactic that I would end up using. Once I get there. We're not quite there yet, but we're getting close. We're getting close. Got that one. Oh, whoa. Oh, whoa. Purple highlighting. That must be an important question. I wonder who just added purple highlighting to Danny's question. Do we have any confessions? Any confessions, moderators? Would any of my moderators like to confess to that? I plead the fifth. Somebody wants her question answered. Danny's like, LOL, thank you, Sonny. So it was Penguin Butt. I have found you. All right, so I know some of the official modules aren't the best balance or most fun to play, but I'm purely a homebrew DM, story-wise, so I don't know which ones are actually that bad. Do you have any suggestions for modules that are actually worth the money and will be fun or functional to run, both to keep my sanity and save me from having to write every adventure I run from scratch? Wow, look at that question. Luke, could you review all of the modules that have been created to see which ones I should actually try running or not? Well, let's look at the list of 5th edition modules. 5e adventure modules. I wonder if there's like a wiki page that lists them out. Is there a wiki page? List of Dungeons and Dragons adventures. We're probably not going to get it. Oh, is there a 5th edition? 5th edition. Oh, I think I found it. Okay, I think I actually found it. I did say wiki. That's how I pronounce it. I do not say wiki. I say wiki. I say wiki. Don't judge me. I will put a comma splice somewhere. Judging me for my pronunciation. People are mean. You're going to make me cry. All right, let's take a look at these. I'll try to give you my thoughts on some of these. I haven't read them all. I certainly have not played them all, but I'll give you some quick thoughts on some of these things. And we'll see where we go from there. Whoa. Some pop-ups. Okay. Lost Mines of Phandelver. I've not played it. I've not run it. It's in the starter set. I've heard good things about it. Horde of the Dragon Queen and Rise of Tiamat. I have heard from people who have played this that there are parts of it that's a hot, sloppy mess and very challenging and difficult and stuff. So I don't know that I would recommend that, but only based on what I've heard from other people. Princes of the Apocalypse. I ran about 1/3 of this module for my group and read other parts of it. I thought it was pretty good. I liked it. There was a problem with the dungeon design. Basically, one level of a dungeon was like level 4. The next level down was for level 8, and the next level down was for level 12. So if you have a typical adventuring party that just wants to go down into the dungeon from level to level, they're going to get their butts kicked. So there was some serious game design issues with that, but a dungeon master could fix it if they know to do that and know how to do it. So it could be done. Out of the Abyss, never run it before. Never have done that before, so I can't comment on that. Curse of Strahd. Curse of Strahd is a very good module. I am enjoying it. I like it. I will say that it is a very open world module. People will call it sandboxy or something. It is not an adventure module I would recommend for a new dungeon master at all. This is an adventure module for experienced dungeon masters who can, they got some experience under their belt. So it's fun though. It's a very good module. I just wouldn't recommend it for a first-time dungeon master for sure. They will probably be frustrated by it. Yeah. Storm King's Thunder. Conceptually, I like the idea. I like the storyline behind it. It's a bunch of giants, which you're going to need a homebrew because giants are one of the most boring, uninteresting monsters in the entire monster manual. I haven't read hardly any of it. There is an entire chapter, which is really just like a campaign setting for the North. It gives you like a list of cities and then like adventure hooks in them, but the dungeon master has to write their own adventures as opposed to actually giving you the adventures. So that might appeal to somebody. I wouldn't have a problem with that. I think that would be fairly interesting for me, but for other dungeon masters, perhaps not so much. I do feel like the way they set this up because of the different tracks you can take, there are big parts of this adventure module that don't end up getting run at the game table if you take different choices. So when I was thinking of running this for my group, I was just gonna like make it so that you would run all of the different parts of it, but I would just level up the different parts. That way you would go to all of the giant areas and have to fight everything because I bought the module and we're gonna play a giant module. We might as well just do everything. You know what I mean? But can't really comment on that too much. Tales from the Yawning Portal is hit and miss. I would say probably about half of the adventures in Tales from the Yawning Portal are really good. A couple of them are amazing. The Forgotten Forge, I think is the name of one of them, is amazing. I loved it. There was so much good stuff in it. Others are absolutely abysmally horrible. Against the Giants is a train wreck. I did not like that at all. And it's not really an adventure module. It's more like an anthology. It contains a variety of different adventures. They do not follow the same storyline. So Tales from the Yawning Portal, you would buy this if you want to drag and drop certain adventures into your homebrew. Like let's pretend, Danny, that you were running, your group was level 4 and you didn't want to make a homebrew for some reason. You just wanted to use a pre-made one, you know, just to save yourself some prep time. Then you might get Tales from the Yawning Portal and take the Forgotten Forge and take an area of that and drop it into your game. But you wouldn't run this from cover to cover. That's not the way Tales from the Yawning Portal was designed. It's really more designed as an anthology. Which is the same is true for Ghosts of Saltmarsh, and the same is true for Candlekeep Mysteries. They're not end-to-end modules that you would run. You can drag and drop certain adventures out of them into your game, which is very useful in my opinion. I actually prefer that method of an adventure module as opposed to having it be something you would run from like level 1 or 3 or 5 all the way to level 12. For me personally as a dungeon master, that's more useful. I would probably use that more than an adventure module that you're kind of stuck in, so to speak, for like 3 years or something. So anyway, I actually kind of like that setup. I think that's very useful. For me as a dungeon master, I would use that a whole lot more. Tomb of Annihilation. Have not played it, have not really read it a whole lot. I have heard that it's pretty deadly. That's really all I know about it. Now we're getting into some that I actually know a little bit about. Dragon Heist, I played through almost the entire thing. I thought it was really well designed. I thought it was really cool. I liked it. I thought it was awesome. It's a level 1 to 5 adventure module. I can recommend that one for sure. Probably not a waste of your time or money. Dungeon of the Mad Mage. Really, really good. I feel like Dungeon of the Mad Mage is underrated. It is totally underrated. Folks will be like, oh, it's just a big dungeon crawl, blah. No, dude. The different levels of Dungeon of the Mad Mage are very big, have different factions in them, have different groups. You can have diplomacy with them, you can talk with them, you can negotiate. It depends on your dungeon master, obviously. If they just have everything attack you, then you're gonna have a lame, boring game. But if they actually roleplay these different factions and enemies, then this can be full of exploration and social interactions and combat too. And these levels are really, really cool. The only problem with Dungeon of the Mad Mage is that the group really has no reason to go there. There's no hook built into the module. There kind of is, but it's kind of feeble. So the biggest thing you're going to need to do for Dungeon of the Mad Mage is build your own hook, your own reason for the adventurers to actually go into this dungeon. But the better way to run Dungeon of the Mad Mage, in my opinion, is to still use all the levels, but don't have them be in a big dungeon that goes from top to bottom. Take those levels and put them across your game world in different locations and make them their own adventures that your players would go upon in different locations with different plot hooks. And you'd make a unique plot hook for each one of those. That would be like the ideal way, in my opinion, to run Dungeon of the Mad Mage. As it is, a dungeon crawl from top to bottom levels is not my style. It's not how I would do it. There's no motivation for just keep going down. There kind of is, but there isn't. So Stranger Things starter set. I've never even looked at this. I cannot comment on this at all. Ghosts of Saltmarsh, another anthology of adventures. I began reading this adventure module about a week ago or so, and I'm almost all the way through the first adventure. I like it a lot. What is my cat doing over there? I like it a lot. I think it's really cool. I haven't read all of them, but I get really good vibes, and I think my gut impression is that it's going to be really cool. So I'm pretty hopeful of this one. Dragon of Icespire Peak. I've never read that one before. Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus. I am playing this now as a player. I have not read the module, and I don't plan to until I'm actually done playing it because I don't want to spoil my game. My impressions so far, having been a player, are that I like it. I think it's cool. I've been enjoying it. I think the storyline is fun. I think the gameplay has been fun. So I could definitely recommend this, but only from a player's perspective. I don't know. I can't really say anything from a dungeon master's perspective because I have not read anything in the module at all. The Lost Dungeon of Wickedness. Big Rick energy. Rick and Morty. I don't know. To me, this kind of feels like a Nickelodeon type thing, which I probably might not enjoy, but I don't know. I really don't know anything about it. I've never seen it before. I don't even know who Rick and Morty is. I don't know what that is, but it feels a little bit Nickelodeon-ish. That's the impression I get, but I don't know. Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frost Maiden. The adventure itself and the different things you do in the adventure, I think are pretty cool. I think there's lots of interesting stuff in there that would probably be a lot of fun. It is a very challenging adventure. Many of the encounters are deadly. So you just, as long as you know that and are willing to change them as needed for your group, that's not a problem. Just be aware that it's a very challenging module. I punched the numbers on many of the encounters and a lot of them are deadly. So just be aware of that. But beyond that, the adventures that I looked at and all that kind of stuff, I thought were really cool. So I think that's probably pretty solid bet there, perhaps. Candlekeep Mysteries. I haven't read through all of the adventures in it. I glanced at a couple of them. I know we did a flip through last week or the week before on my Twitch channel. But I really haven't read any of the adventures here. This is an anthology, so they are mysteries. They are mysteries. So you probably wouldn't want to run this cover to cover. Your players would probably you want some variety in your games. You can't have everything be a mystery. That'll get old fast, I feel like. So this is one of those where you would just drag and drop adventures every so often into your game to give your players a mystery. If you're not good at writing mysteries, but you want to run one, then this is a good way to go. And I think this is really good too. Because a lot of these adventures and modules and stuff aren't mysteries, and so this feels a really good niche, to give you some more arsenal to throw at your players and use in your games. So probably not a bad way to go, in my opinion. But that's of course not having read, really any of the adventures in it. So it's just kind of my gut reaction to it. I don't run a whole lot of modules. I'm a homebrew person myself, so I'm just kind of sharing with you my impressions on these things and my limited experience with them. So that may or may not be helpful to you, but there you go. Have fun with that. Thank you, Danny, for the wonderful question. I'm going to put a timestamp on that too. I already put a timestamp on that. I'll probably publish that out to YouTube because that's quasi useful information. How many fighters, PC plus NPC, is too many for a combat session? Once you get past 10 combatants, things are going to take a lot longer and bog down potentially. So if you have like 5 players and 5 monsters, once you get like too much bigger than that, the D&D game system was not intended for mass combat. It was intended for small groups fighting each other. So once you get too big, what you're going to find is things bog down and rounds take longer and combat takes longer. This is one of the classic issues with large groups of players, is that combat takes a long time a lot of times. So personally, I'd try to keep things around 10 or fewer as far as total combatants to avoid the bog. Some dungeon masters are better than others and can keep things rolling along. And players as well contribute to whether it's slow or whether it's fast. So that's really kind of like, it depends. But there's some impressions for you. Werewolf says, I am saving up for the annual subscription for your Ancient Dragon tier, and I'm on one of the last few semesters of my IT program. Cool. IT program. It's a good way to go. Make some money. Jobs are in demand, baby. I mean, you don't want to go into like something that doesn't have job potential. So I was wondering if my girlfriend could take my place for the one-shot campaigns if I'm unavailable because of my studies. If I can't, I'd still have to play a game with you. Yeah, dude. If you are literally, so that's the $50 tier to be in the reserve and have like one-shots and stuff. I think that's what you're talking about. If you're paying for that tier and you're unable to make a game session, but you want like somebody to stand in for you, I don't think I'd have any problems with that. Obviously the same rules will apply to any of my players. Like you need to be like a decent human being and contribute positively to the game environment, but as long as she or you or whoever is like gonna be cool, you know, then I don't think I'd have a problem with that. So I think you're good to go, dude. It's like you're paying for that tier and for that privilege, so if you want to designate a stand-in when you're unable to make it, that seems completely reasonable to me. At the table, what tools or products do you use to keep your monsters straight? I frequently accidentally deduct hit points from the wrong creature on paper. Okay, so I'm going to show you two things. First of all, if I'm playing online, if I'm playing on Roll20, I just, on the monster token, the player literally tells me which token he's attacking, and he points at it, and in Roll20, I'll just deduct or add the hit points. I always add hit points. I never deduct hit points. I always add hit points. I just do, as opposed to deducting them. I'll always add the hit points up, and then when he reaches the hit point total, he's dead. In Roll20, it's not a problem. It's never been a problem for me. I just pay attention and keep the tokens straight. So I don't have any special tricks there. I can show you what I do when I'm playing in person. So when I'm playing in person, I have a piece of paper, and let's pretend we have 3 orcs that they're fighting. I'll just do that right there. And then when they have orcs on the map or whatever that they're fighting, and I might write orc 1, orc 2, orc 3, and then if a player says, and I'll just know which orc is which. Like I'll just remember which orc is which. You could use a little color. You could get like little color things you could put underneath the token that has a special color or something, and then you could have the red orc, the blue orc, the yellow orc or something. You could get little buttons, put them next to the tokens if you can't remember which is which, but you do need some sort of way to designate which is which. You might use different types of orc figurines on the miniature, the map, to help tell which is which. And then when he attacks one, if a player attacks this one, he does 12 damage. That's 2 tick marks. Or I'm sorry, that's one tick mark. I counted multiples of 10. If he does 5 damage, it's 1 tick mark. Let's pretend that he has 40 hit points. So, and then he does 2 damage. Well, I don't really count the 2 damage. Oh, he does 8 damage. Oh, that's a tick mark. And then he does 6 damage. That's a tick mark. Okay, he just died. Boom. That's how I keep track of hit points. I use tally marks. I do not track hit points. I use tally marks. Each tally mark represents 10 hit points. If a player hits a monster for 5 or more damage, they get a tally mark. If it's 4 or less damage, they don't get a tally mark. And it averages out to be about right. This makes tracking hit points at the table super, super fast. And I don't have to do addition. I don't have to do subtraction. I just do tally marks, and it works super well. And is it precise? No, it's not precise, but it's fast and it's easy. And in all honesty, not every single orc is going to have 40 hit points. Some orcs are beefier and have 47. Some are weaker and have 36. So just using tally marks approximates the idea that not all orcs are exactly the same, in the same way that not all fighters have the same amount of hit points when they're a character. So this is what I do to keep track of hit points in person. If we're playing Theater of the Mind, which I used to play Theater of the Mind with one of my groups, I would literally do the same thing. I would literally just have orc 1, orc 2, orc 3. I would use tally marks, just like I would do here. But basically what I would do in Theater of the Mind to make things easier is I had a convention with my players that we just assumed that if it made sense, everybody was basically attacking the same orc. Like people would team up on the same orc. There's no reason to spread your damage across multiple orcs. It's not a very tactical thing to do. So with Theater of the Mind, to speed up gameplay, we usually fell to that convention. Now, sometimes you wouldn't. Sometimes you'd have an orc. You might have another orc with a bow, and then somebody would specifically say, I'm attacking the one with the bow, well, then I just keep track of it. Or I'm attacking the one at the back who looks like he might be a wizard. Oh, okay. Well, then that one you're attacking specifically. But for theater of the mind, the way to make theater of the mind work is to not be too picky about details. When you start to think too much about specific details and where it is and where you're located in the battlefield and how many feet you are away from this monster or that monster, when you try to get that specific with theater of the mind, things can bog down a lot. You want to abstract things a little bit. You want to think, instead of thinking in terms of feet, you want to think in terms of movement. So how many moves am I away from that orc? Can I move up to him and attack him? Actually, he's quite a ways away. It's probably going to take you 2 turns to get up to him. Oh, okay, fine. Or yeah, he's only a little bit away from you. You could move up to him and attack him. So I don't think about, somebody's movement speed of 25 feet or 30 feet. We keep things more generic and vague. Things are moves as opposed to like feet. And if you're casting a Burning Hands, you're probably going to be able to get 2 of the orcs in it. If you're casting a Fireball, you're probably going to be able to get at least 3 of them in it, if not 4 of them. It depends on maybe a little bit, and I'll just make that judgment call. I'll make that judgment call. And as long as the players are all cool with that, you can make theater of the mind move along way faster in combat than you can with minis in a grid. As long as you feel comfortable not sticking to nitty-gritty details. If you want to stick to nitty-gritty details with theater of the mind, it will take much longer actually than grid and minis. If you want to be super specific and tactical, then theater of the mind is not for you. You want to go to grid and minis. But anyway, yeah, there's some tips for you. I see pen and paper. We doing math? We're cheating. Yes, we're totally cheating. Math? Is math not your friend? I should make math work. I'm gonna make a math assignment in Trello. I'm gonna have you do derivatives. We should do a cat trip. I'm pretty sure we had it. Yeah, we had a cat trip redeemed for sure. So let's do a cat trip and then we'll come back and we'll do more questions. Whee! So let's go to the cat trip time. Cat trip. What is this? This right here is cat crack. It's just catnip, folks. Report me to Twitch. Ah! All right, I gotta find their toys. Squeaky, what's going on, buddy? All right, I have their toys. I am now gonna load them up with catnip, and we're gonna do a cat strike. Cat trip, cat trip. Quantum mechanics or partial differential equations. Up, little guy. Here you go, buddy. Little guy's here. Hey, Ed. Ed, little guy's here. All right, I'm gonna go bio. I'll be right back. Make sure my cats behave. Forgot my coffee. They're getting really close. I'm kind of worried. Was Squeaky being a jerk? You didn't like math when they started putting letters in it? It's like spelling. Squeaky was being a jerk? Oh. That's so not nice. Squeaky! Why don't you let him play too? Squeaky! You big baby? Little guy! Hey, no. Come over here. Let little guy play. He wants to hog. He's being a hog. He stole his toy. Look at him. Now he's leaving. Little guy. Little guy. Little guy. Come here, little guy. Squeaky, you're a jerk. I know. All right, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Ed, you're asking about peak D&Ds. So Ed, I'm gonna have. I haven't had a chance to watch a whole lot of it, honestly. Those guys are funny though. Those guys are really funny. They're gonna be on the stream toward the end of April. I'm gonna have all of them on the stream. April, what is it? April 26th or something? I don't know. Don't quote me on it. But I'm gonna have them all on the stream. We're just gonna hang out and talk. So look forward to that. Those guys are so funny. Yeah. Probably put this here. There we go. Squeaky is just being a little butthead right there. That's awesome. All right, cool. Before we jump into the next little part here, I want to do a quick little plug of my monthly D&D magazine. This right here is Layer Magazine. This is my monthly Dungeons and Dragons magazine that I publish to my patrons. We just did a rebranding and a redesign. We're now, instead of calling it a patron PDF, we're calling it Layer Magazine, and this is our first cover of Layer Magazine. So this is the May edition right here. Has not been released yet. What's currently out there for my patrons is the April edition, Might and Majesty. Hasn't quite gone through the cover redesign yet. It includes a whole bunch of stuff you can use in your D&D games. It has adventure ideas in it for all the different tiers of play. And it also has traps. I think these were made by Subcycle. Lots of cool traps that are interesting and not just lame poison or dart traps or something. It has magic armor. Ed, I think you made this magic armor, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody else might have made it. I forget. I can't keep everything straight. We are going to start putting bylines at the beginnings of all of these different things too, so that we know who the contributors were. By the way, you did? Okay, cool. Yeah. It has a 5th edition adventure called The Undying Brain. It's a level 7 adventure. It features some undead in there. I think it has Sawagan. It has an archmage in there. We have read aloud text in all of the adventures that I publish in Layer Magazine as well. We have maps designed for virtual tabletop. And when you get Layer Magazine, you don't just get the PDF, you also get the image files that are specially designed for use on virtual tabletop, such as Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds. You have high res, you have low res, you have gridded and ungridded. We give you all of those files and resources you need to help make it easier for you to play online with your friends. And here's an example of one of the maps right here. Very, very cool. This one was made by published author, super high quality maps. When you zoom in and get closer to it, there's lots of detail on this map. It's really amazing. And you can see lots of read aloud text. I love read aloud text. It makes it easier to run the game. We have puzzles. I believe Ed and Galen Smokescale, I believe. No. Who was it? Spyro. Spyro did it. It was Ed and Spyro. Ed and Spyro contributed to these puzzles. Very, very cool, awesome puzzles. I'm not good at making puzzles, but these are really sweet. And then it has the Bloodstone Strike, a level 4 D&D adventure as well. I ran these for my moderators a few weeks ago. Nearly TPK'd them in the last fight. It was so cool. Yeah, this is what we ran right here. So very, very, very fun. So if you want to get the Lair magazine, it is published every single month to my patrons. There's a link somewhere floating around there. You can sign up for that. So it's very, very cool. Of course, I'm going to say it's cool. I make it. 3 hit points. Yeah, that was such an epic battle, dude. All right. Now let's get back to our questions. We did that one. Do you ever use the materials we create here in your own games? I usually don't. I usually create more stuff and additional stuff for my games. Yeah. No particular reason. There's no reason I wouldn't use the stuff, but I usually just create my own stuff. Additionally, besides what we create on stream here. What are some pointers on how a game master can treat a campaign as an Agile project? Session retrospectives, session stand-ups, trimming the backlog. I appreciate the question. That's funny. I don't know that was a serious question though, so I'm just gonna laugh at it and give you a thumbs up. What order would you recommend buying the D&D 5th edition source books in order of helpfulness and importance? Okay, so I'm gonna answer that question from the perspective of a dungeon master, is what I'm gonna do. So if you were a dungeon master and you're going to get the 5th edition source books, which ones would be the most helpful for you? Which ones should you get? I would definitely say Player's Handbook. You start with the Player's Handbook because the dungeon master needs that as well. You're gonna need it. That has tons of the rules in there that you need to know. So definitely get that one. And then you're gonna want the monster manual. You need the monster manual. It has monsters in it. You need monsters. And then I would say the third one you'd want to get is the Dungeon Master's Guide, which is interestingly ironic that as the dungeon master, the third thing you should get is the Dungeon Master Guide. While it does include information in there and some rules and stuff, it is not the most important book in my opinion. I definitely, if I only could have 2 of the books, I would choose the Player's Handbook and the Monster Manual. If I could only have 1 of the books, you have to have the Player Handbook. So you definitely, I would go for that order. After that, once you have those 3 core books, you really don't have to have anything else. If you're on a budget, those 3 will get the job done. You don't need the other ones. But if you wanted to get the other ones, in my personal opinion, in the order of most usefulness, I would definitely go for the monster manuals. So you have Volo's Guide to Monsters and then Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. As a dungeon master who creates dungeons and adventures for my players, I always need more monsters, more interesting monsters to put into my adventures. I'm always going to need those. So I definitely would get the other monster manuals, Volo's Guide to Monsters and Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. Always going to be super useful for me. At that point, I'm probably going to look, if I'm running an adventure module, I'm going to get whatever adventure module I feel like I want to run, whether it's Ghosts of Salt Marsh, or Storm King's Thunder, or Waterdeep Dragon Heist. I would get the module that I need. I view Xanathar's Guide to Everything and Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Wait, Xanathar's Guide to what? What is it called? Get me confused around here. Yeah, Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Oh, they literally say everything. Okay, they are the same. I thought I was getting them confused. Xanathar's Guide to Everything and Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. I don't use those hardly at all as a dungeon master. There's not a whole lot of stuff in those that I find super useful as a dungeon master. Xanathar's Guide to Everything has the revised downtime rules, which I think are very useful, but those are pretty much the same as Unearthed Arcana, which you can get for free. Like years ago, they did revised downtime in Unearthed Arcana, and it's almost the exact same as what they published in Xanathar's Guide to Everything. I know playtesting and beta and alpha and stuff, but they didn't change a whole lot, so it's almost the same for free. I use those from Xanathar's. I don't use much of anything else from Xanathar's Guide to Everything as a dungeon master. So I would view that as very, very optional for a dungeon master. Tasha's Cauldron of Everything is mostly stuff for players. There's not a whole lot in there for the dungeon master. I would say the one thing in there that I would use as a dungeon master are the sidekick rules. I think the sidekick rules are pretty cool. So I would probably use those. But most of the other stuff in there is for players. It's player stuff. So as a dungeon master, I just don't care about player stuff a whole lot. I want to review it and make sure it's not overpowered or something. But it's not super necessary for my job for what I'm doing in the game. You know what I mean? So I would let my players buy those because they're the ones that are going to use those the most. And what else am I missing? Is there anything else that I'm missing that I haven't discussed? Yes, I think some of the magic item, the loot table stuff in Xanathar's is useful. I don't really use it a whole lot myself, but I've taken a peek at it. Are there any other modules that I forgot to mention? Anything else, or any other source books that dungeon masters should consider? Anything I overlooked? Danny says the only module you absolutely need to be a DM is this dope one called Into the Fae. This is 100% true and totally not a biased opinion. Literally impossible to play D&D without owning Into the Fae. Yep. Well, where's the link? Where's the shameless link to that? There we go. Thank you, Penguin Butt. Skag. Okay, Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide. Ed is fishing for a rant. I have ranted many times on Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide and how it is very, very bad. So you do not want to get that. I would get the second edition campaign setting for Forgotten Realms if you wanted a campaign setting for Forgotten Realms. Don't get Skag. Eberron. Yes, the Eberron campaign setting is amazing. Amazing, amazing. I have not found anything in it that I didn't like, that I thought sucked or whatever. And usually I can find things that I can pick at a little bit, you know, but Eberron was so tight. It was so good. I'm planning on doing a flip through at some point about the Eberron campaign setting because I always talk about how awesome it is. And I've never actually gone through it and talked about some of these things. So I think I'm going to do that at some point on one of my live streams and then probably put it over on YouTube and stuff. But Eberron is very, very good. It's such a great campaign setting. Not just thematically, not just like the theme, the feel and stuff of Eberron, but how they designed it. How they designed it with the dungeon master in mind to help the dungeon master actually run a game in Eberron. Like the design team, the people that made the Eberron book are like, wow, very good. So impressed by Eberron. Yeah. Ed says, love the Eberron book, don't like the setting. Yeah, you might not like the setting, but the design of the book and how they made the book was so well made. I think every campaign setting should be designed and laid out and organized in a way similar to Eberron. It's just so well done. It should be like the gold standard for how to do campaign settings. The design of the book is amazing and it's full of great ideas. 100% agree. Absolutely. Okay, there you go. There are the D&D source books I most recommend. Do you allow your characters to discuss things out of character for as long as they want if it seems like they're all engaged and having fun? No, not necessarily. You can't just go like, here's the thing. Not all of your players are all going to be engaged and having fun in an out of character conversation. Not all of them are. You're always going to have one or two players who want to play the game, who want to go do the thing and play the adventures. I mean, we could have a discussion. There might be 3 players that are like really engrossed in a discussion. Let's pretend they're talking about Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. And they're just talking about it and the different editions and stuff and having a great time and really engaged and talking about it. But it has nothing to do with the current adventure, nothing to do with the current game. They might be enjoying it. I might even be enjoying the conversation. But I guarantee you there are a couple other players that want to play the game. They came there to play the game, not talk about Tasha. So if there's a little bull crapping that goes on before the game session begins about something totally out of character, you know, that's great. But to just let it go on for forever, you know, no, folks want to play the game at some point. You know, we came here to play the game. So as a dungeon master, I'm going to make sure that I you know, make sure that there's an appropriate amount of space and time for that sort of thing. But it's got to be done in you can't just have the whole game session be taken over by an out of character conversation. That's not going to be enjoyable for everybody. It won't be. You know, many people come to play the game. You know, and so yeah, I'm not just gonna let it go forever. I'm not, because honestly, I want to play the game too. I spent lots of time prepping and preparing for the adventure and stuff, and I want to have fun as well and play the game. So I'm not gonna just let them go forever on that. I would probably suggest, hey guys, you know, why don't we play the game, and then after the game, you guys all get together again and talk about this or something. So. My players like to discuss what to do out of game in front of NPCs. Yeah. When running a one-shot for a level 10 party, how do you determine starting equipment? Do you give spending gold? And if so, how much do you charge for magic items? I can just show you my character creation rules. They are hosted on Reddit. It's like the only thing that I use Reddit for is to host my character creation rules. I don't have to use it, but they just happen to be there. And I guess I'm lazy. I do not go to Reddit for anything else. So my character creation rules are right here. I'll put a link to this in the chat so folks can find this if they want to. Did that work? Nope, it did the same thing it did before. I'm very bad at this. Okay, there we go. So these are my basic character creation rules. I'm not going to talk about all of them, but this is how I do starting gold. So basically you get starting gold based upon what level you're at. So if you're level 5 to 10, you get 2,000 gold pieces. Level 11 to 16, get 5,000. 17 to 20, get 10,000. And these are different things you can purchase. Healing potions, basically. You can't purchase magic items and stuff when you're starting at higher levels. If I'm having somebody start at a super high level like 10 or something, we'll have a discussion. We might give you some starter magic items. I might pick out what they are. I'm probably not going to allow players to choose their own starter magic items, because I have had some amazing luck with players who will take min-maxing to all new heights in choosing their starter magic items. So I'm probably going to do those selections myself, unless it's maybe for a one-shot game, because I don't care quite so much about that sort of thing for one-shot games, because you're only going to do it once. But if it's an ongoing campaign, then I'm going to make those decisions myself. I definitely had some players who chose some starter equipment that was very, very optimally chosen, let us say. So that's how I handle that. Who has the first Tome of Beasts? Ed, do you have that? I think I remember somebody saying that Tome of Beasts was, a lot of the monsters were very powerful, like OP. Is that true? I think I heard somebody saying that. They are? Okay. It makes sense. It's third-party homebrew stuff, so you would expect it to be pretty overpowered. So that totally makes sense. Did you actually calculate some of the CRs and punch the numbers to see if they were way overpowered for the stated CR? Did you do any of the number crunching? Oh, they balance for their game world, which is higher power than core D&D. Okay. I mean, that's fair. That's totally fair. If they're doing it for their own game world, that's totally fair. Of course you did. All right, back to our questions. I answered that one. All right, keep the questions coming, folks. Do you use anything other than Wizards of the Coast material? No, not really. I don't use third-party stuff. I actually, I don't use a whole lot of the Wizards of the Coast material either. I use the core books. I really just use the core books. And then if my players, and there's a few things that I use from some of the other books, but not a whole lot. And if my players want to use something from one of the other books, like Tasha's or Xanathar's, they ask me about it. I review whatever it is they want to use, and then I approve it or not. So I don't really use a whole lot more than the core books. One of the main reasons, this is just my own personal thing, I don't have a lot of time to read all of these different things and then incorporate them into my game. So because I don't have a whole lot of time to do all this extra reading and stuff like that, I have so many things that I'm doing in my life. Reading books, like, you know, even D&D books is a luxury. Right now I'm working through Ghosts of Salt Marsh. Really just working through it during bathroom breaks. That's the only time I have for fun reading. So one of the main reasons I don't use a whole lot of extra stuff is that I just don't have time to like read it all. So that kind of straps me. So I'm restricted in that way. If I had more time to read some of these things, I'd probably get more excited about them, and I might consider using them more, you know. What kind of mic do you have? Won a grant for a podcast, and I'm on the market for some decent mics and such. PS, thank you for reading my previous question. This is a blue mic. I forget what it's called. Blue Ember. I'm using a Blue Ember mic, and it's an XLR cord, and it feeds into my Stream Deck. I'm using the Go XLR, the full size version Go XLR, which is an expensive Stream Deck, but for a reason. So I have the Blue Ember mic that feeds into the Go XLR, which goes into my computer. But the blue Ember is an XLR cable, so you could put it into a standard mixer as well if you're not going into your computer. If you're, I don't know how you're doing your podcast or whatever. So, it's not an expensive mic. The Blue Ember I think was a little over $100. But the thing is that you want to have good audio. You got to have good audio for a podcast. So you don't want to skimp on your mic, but your mixing deck has a lot to do with things too, and making things sound good. And once you get like, if you have a dedicated mic, like the Blue Ember, like a dedicated XLR mic, once you get past the $100 range, I feel like, and I'm not an audio engineer, but I feel like you're gonna, the improvement in sound quality is you're gonna have diminishing returns. You know, so once you get into the $100 plus range, $200 or so, you have a pretty solid mic, you know, and then you have all the other equipment you're going to go into. But going much more beyond that, you're probably not going to notice a huge difference. Some people will, some people with very sensitive ears that have trained themselves will, but the vast majority of people probably won't. So you're probably not. Now, if you get a cheap $30 mic, it's going to sound like a $30 mic, you know? So, but I'm not an audio engineer. I'd go watch a bunch of YouTube videos and see what professionals have to say about stuff too, you know? But I get really good results with like a $100-some mic and then a nice Stream Deck that does the audio mixing for me, you know, and I get okay-ish results, I guess. Whoa. Master Lou, hello. Welcome. What's up, dude? This is my second time watching you live, but watch your YouTube videos. Thank you. So my question is, being what I'm considering DMing, because I did it for Star Wars by Weston Games. Oh, Star Wars. I love Star Wars. What recommendations be for a digital? And I'm considering Foundry VTT. I've never used Foundry VTT. I pretty much, everyone who's used it, I feel like has told me that it's really good. You cannot say that about Roll20. You cannot say that about Fantasy Grounds. Like, I can't, at least. Everybody has told me Foundry VTT is very good. I have heard that there is a learning curve and that it takes more setup time from the Dungeon Master to get things ready, but the end result is very good. That is pretty much the limit of what I've heard and what I can pass on to you. I love original Star Wars. Oh, the first 3 they did. Oh, so good. So good. Yeah, Deceiver says Foundry VTT is more work, but it's really good. So if you have the time, then it's a really good way to go. I would probably get frustrated because I don't have time for that stuff. I want to just be able to put a map in there really quick and call it a day. And I can do that in Roll20. Roll20 still frustrates me a lot of times. But it gets the job done. It's such a sad statement to have to make about something. Well, it gets the job done. All right, we got that. That one. Dark's Uprising says, you had said you dislike inexperienced writers. No. I never said that. I don't dislike inexperienced writers. That would be just stupid to dislike inexperienced writers. Everybody everywhere who does anything at some point before they got good at it was inexperienced and they didn't know what they were doing and they made tons of mistakes. So I don't dislike inexperienced writers. What I dislike are people that claim to be writers and make a big deal out of the fact that they're writers, but make elementary mistakes with regularity. That is what I dislike. People who boast about their prowess in something, but demonstrate by their actual abilities that they're not that good because they're making elementary mistakes. That annoys me. So that is what annoys me. So that's what I was trying to communicate for the record. For someone who is wanting to write a fantasy book series, but I failed high school English, rarely attended school for medical reasons, I'm very bad with grammar. What do you recommend? An editor, and learning. You can learn, dude. You can learn. Doesn't matter if you're 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 or 60, you can learn. Get yourself a grammar book and learn this stuff. So you really should learn the fundamentals of it. Go learn some grammar, learn writing techniques, take some classes, go to a community college and take some writing classes and take some grammar classes and learn these things. So you failed in your previous stuff, but that's no reason why right now you can't take certain steps to get better at those things. You don't have to be the world's, to be able to write novels and stuff. You want to like write a fantasy book series and stuff like that. To be able to do that, you don't have to be the world's best grammarian or whatever, or speller and stuff like that. That isn't what's required. Those are good skills to have, but you don't have to be super great at all those things. You should try to upskill in them and learn them though. Okay. Because the writing business is very hard. So you want every advantage you can get. I will recommend to you Brandon Sanderson? He's the guy who finished up Robert Jordan's series. Let me find him. Brandon Sanderson, stand by. He has a YouTube channel about writing that is amazing. I watch it from time to time because it's useful as a dungeon master, because a dungeon master is also involved in storytelling and writes adventures that involve storytelling. Not a storyteller, but is involved in storytelling. But Brandon Sanderson has a YouTube channel. I'm finding it so I can get a link for you right now. And he does YouTube videos and he talks about writing and tips about writing and stuff like that. I did it again. I am a very bad streamer. Yes. So I'm trying to put my cursor in the chat field and it doesn't work. So right there is his YouTube channel. Lots of good information. Dude, Brandon Sanderson is an amazing writer. This guy is awesome. And he has a whole YouTube channel with tons of information about authors, people who want to be authors, writing advice and stuff. It's gold. It's absolute gold. And he's a really good speaker and lecturer, in my opinion, too. His stuff is not boring as dirt. So I would highly recommend you check out his content. And you might find some really useful information there. So hope that helps a little bit. Penguin says, if you start talking badly about yourself, your mods are going to get upsetty spaghetti with you. I said something bad about myself? What did I say? What did I say that was bad about myself, Penguin? What did I say? Oh, you said you were a bad streamer. Oh, that was joking. Danny says, I have no clue, but I just agree. Penguin Butt says, which is a lie. Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, thank you. Ooh, the starter DM. Here's a controversial question for you. Do you prefer DND, D lowercase nd, or D ampersand D? D ampersand is the little swirly and sign. I prefer to do it properly, which is D ampersand D. That is my preference for spelling it out. Sometimes I do spell it out shorthand, lowercase d, lowercase n, lowercase d. Usually I do it properly because that is the proper way to do it. And I like to, for some reason, it just feels lazy and wrong to do D, lowercase n, and then D. Danny says she's lazy. I don't think that you're lazy, Danny. You crack out a whole bunch of work for me, and it doesn't show me any laziness. Unless you're like, unless you are like contracting everything out to like India or something, and I just don't know it. Which still gets the work done. My players wanted to play an evil campaign, and I made some boundaries for what is acceptable and whatnot, but they say it's too nice. What now? I'm not comfortable with that much violence. Boom, there you go. That is your limit. That's the limit. You are not comfortable with what they want to do in their evil campaign. I don't know what that is. Let's say they want to go around murdering babies and like, I don't know, raping people or something. Who knows? Who knows what it is they wanted to do? But for whatever reason, you as the dungeon master were not comfortable with what they wanted to do in the game. You do not have to run that game for them, and I would not suggest running that game for them. That is your limit. That's your hard limit of no, that's not happening in a game that I'm running. Period, end of story. We are not doing that in my game. Now, you guys all don't like that? Well, sorry, I'm the wrong dungeon master for you. If you guys want to run a game that involves those themes that I do not approve of or want in my game, then you're gonna have to go find a different dungeon master, because that's not what I'm gonna do in my game. And you guys might not like that, you might be upset with that, and I'm okay with that because I have my morals, my standards, whatever you want to call them, and I'm not running a game like that. So you are 100% in the right for refusing to do what makes you feel uncomfortable and what you don't want to do in the game. And I would stay very, very hold that line, you know. Don't give in to the peer pressure and what they want you to do and get pushed into doing something that makes you feel uncomfortable. Be very clear that no, I'm not doing this. We can either play a game that I'm comfortable with playing and running as a dungeon master, or we're not going to, and then call it a day. So don't give in to that sort of thing. You do what you feel is appropriate and right, would be my suggestion for you. How can I handle a multi-faction battle without making it too long and slow? The D&D combat system was not made for large multi-faction battles. It wasn't. So you have two choices really. One, go get a system made to be added onto D&D that handles large-scale combat better. Two, you handle it narratively. So instead of rolling dice and using game mechanics when there are large factions at play, you handle things narratively, and you guys just use your brains and talk it out, and you role play it without using game mechanics, without using dice. So those would be my two suggestions. Otherwise, the D&D game mechanics that we have do not handle large-scale combat. They were not intended to, and that's perfectly fine in my opinion. They don't need to. They handle what they were designed for is small groups fighting each other. They do fairly well at that because that's what they were designed for. But if you want something more, if you want large-scale combat with lots of different factions and stuff, then you need to either look outside of the D&D core mechanics to an add-on, a supplementary product that somebody has made, or you can handle things narratively. Otherwise, prepare yourself for slow, boggy, long combat, because yeah. You're very welcome, invalid username. I was in a game once where the rest of the group, including the DM, pressured one of our guys to take advantage of one of the NPCs, and he was genuinely really messed up about it after the session. Yeah, that's not cool. People who do that crap can screw off, and you need to find a better group. There's some validity to that statement. Nixus says 23 Indian youth working in Bali creating content for the DM layer under Danny's thumb. Yeah, Danny is not lazy. You guys should see the mountains of work she does for me. She's not lazy. Let's see. I have a very toxic player that makes the game worse for everyone, but I can't kick him because his dad threatened to pull his sister, another player, from the game. What should I do? Kick him from the game. Holy crap. So the dad is like, okay, so you have a toxic player. You have a player who is ruining the game for other people, making the game miserable for other people. And then dad, so you're running a game for like kids or teenagers or something, or younger people, which is cool. I do that too. I have a game for younger people. It's lots of fun. So you're running a game for younger folks, and one of the brother is very toxic and he's doing things that are problematic in the game. And you really would like to remove him because you know it's going to make the game experience better for everybody else. But he has a sister there. And it sounds like because the dad is threatening you in this way, you've already had a conversation with the father and you've explained some of the problems with the son. And the father, it sounds like instead of the father saying, you know what, thank you for expressing your valid concerns about my son, I'm going to have a talk with him and we're going to see if he can become a better role player and contribute more positively to your group. Instead of the father saying that and saying that he's going to talk with his son and work with him to help him to grow and mature as a human being and become a better player and contribute in a more positive way to the game environment. Instead of the father doing that, the father has said, if you remove my son from the game, I'm going to take the sister out of the game as well. Ooh. That was the father's response. Kick my son out and I'm taking the sister too. You know what Luke would do? Immediately, Luke would be like, okay, well, your son's no longer in the game. And the father would be like, well, I'm taking the sister out. Okay. Let that be what it is. You are not going to hold me hostage. I do not deal with terrorists. I do not parlay with terrorists. You're not going to pull this horse crap of forcing me to keep a toxic player in my game because under the threat of removing another player. I don't play that way. Homie, don't play that way. This is not going to happen. Luke is going to immediately say, son is gone. Well, then the sister is gone. Okay, well, that's fine. Because you know, there's a beautiful thing about being a dungeon master. There's a wonderful, amazing thing about being a dungeon master. The world is full of people who want to play D&D. And yet there are so few dungeon masters willing to run the game. So I can quite easily find other people to fill my group. It's unfortunate. I don't like it because the sister was a good player and I would feel bad that she would now be missing out on the game. But there is no way that if the father told me that, I would just take it and keep the kid in there, keep the brother in there, being toxic and doing bad things, ruining the game for everybody else under the father's threat. Would I feel bad that the sister would miss out and get pulled out of the game? Absolutely. Is that the best case scenario for me? No, it's not. But I would expect the father to be more mature and to try to work with his son to help his son mature as a human being and be a better player. Not for the father to give me threats about taking the sister out if the son gets kicked. That's a load of garbage right there. And I would not take that for 1 minute. There's no way. The kid would be gone. And if the father pulled the sister out, I would feel bad about it, but I would know that I made the right choice. And then I would find other players that would play the game and would be good players. And then everybody at the game would have more fun because we got the toxic player out of there. So if your question is what should you do, like that's what I would do. The dude was saying like, I can't kick him because his dad threatened to pull. No, you can kick him. You can kick him. It's unfortunate. You'll lose 2 players out of the deal. But if you keep the toxic player there, that's no. Do not deal with terrorists. You do not make deals with terrorists. Okay. You're going to have to do what you got to do there. So my advice to you is unfortunately remove the kid. You'll lose the sister. You find new players, but the game is going to improve. You can't deal with that situation. And the father's threatening you. Nah, come on. It's a game. I'm sorry. No, homie, don't play that. So that's what Luke would do. And I would, that conversation with the father threatening to do that would just really, that would be sealing the deal for me. I would dig my heels in and just be like, okay, guess what Luke's gonna do now? Yeah. So that's not cool. Not cool. Sounds like you got a toxic father as well, who doesn't want to help his son grow and mature as a human being, but would rather threaten you with taking the sister out. Huh! I wonder why the son behaves the way he behaves. Could it be he learned some of these things from daddy? Might be. Feel bad about the sister though, I really do. There's our rant for you. I saw that question and I knew sparks would fly. Dang. Went from D&D to parenting really quick. Well, yeah. If you have it in you, you can ask or talk to the father about why he takes the sister out too. Hopefully make him realize that what he's doing to his daughter, then kick the son. Yo, I agree. 100% agree. If you can have that conversation and try to talk that out, yeah, absolutely. You would do that. Man. But the nerve of the father threatening that and stuff, it's like, come on. Come on, man. That's just not cool. I can't believe that you expect parents to actually raise their children to be productive members of society. Well, it'd be nice. It's hard though, Ed. It's hard, dude, because it's like Werewolf says, you know it's about to go down if Luke takes a deep breath. It's hard because the thing is, Ed and everybody, you know, as a parent, you try to do what you can. You try to do the best you can. But you're not the only one raising your kid. You have social media influences. You have what's on the internet. You have what's on school. You have what's on YouTube, on TV, what's on the news. You have all of these other influences. You have their peers. You have their teachers. You have all of these other inputs into their life that are influencing them in certain directions. And so as a parent, you might totally disagree with X, Y, and Z, but all of these other pressures and influences in society and their peers and stuff are pushing them in a certain direction, you know, and then they turn out to be a way that you don't agree with and you don't like. And it's not what you taught them. It's not what you encouraged them to do or anything, you know, and all these other things just push them in that direction, you know? So it's very frustrating. It's very hard. So I don't always necessarily just look at the way a kid turned out and say that it's the parents' fault. That's a very narrow-minded and not a good way to look at it necessarily. There's so many other influences and things that are at work there besides just the parents, you know. But the parents do have an influence as well, you know. And so there is something to be said there, for sure. So anyway, sorry. There's. Remember, the DM could be a minor. So the DM, yeah, that would be very intimidating then. If you have, that's a good point. The DM could be a minor who's just playing with his friends, and then the parent is strong-arming him. Yeah, which makes it really hard for him to stand up. That's a very good point. That's a very good point. Yeah. After a certain age, you are no longer the one that influences your children. It's their friends and social groups in society. Luke, you're 100% right. Yeah, it is. Yeah, the older they get, I have a daughter who's 17. I can attest, the older they get, the less influence you have. And your hands get tied, and it can be very difficult. Yeah. Oh yeah, parents have to take some responsibility. Absolutely. They do. They do. The DM could be a socially awkward person who brushed the dad off with a way too harsh complaint about his son or worded it badly, and the father got upset because it's possible. Sure, it's possible. Yeah, I agree. One side of the story can't be enough for us to blast off the side we haven't heard. I agree. But I only have one side of the story, and I don't have a way to corroborate everything and talk about everything. So I'm just giving you my gut impulse on that, which is all I can really do in a live stream. If I had to investigate and probe everything to get all sides of the story and all sides of the question, I probably wouldn't be able to do a live stream. We'd be very quiet around here, which some people might appreciate. Gut impulses are entertaining. Yeah, you know. Alrighty then. I think we're done. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, I think the stream has ended. We're gonna raid somebody, and then we're gonna pack it in. So let me go over to the Twitch here and find somebody to raid. Do I have a schedule? Yeah, on Twitch, I'm here every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern US time, and then every Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern US time. And then I got YouTube videos that come out all the time too. And all right, we're gonna find somebody to raid. Holy crap! All right, let's go here. Find somebody to raid. Dun, 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 dun. Looking for somebody to raid. Looking for somebody to raid. Whoa, these people are all dressed up. These people are all dressed up. Wow. Just scroll down a little bit. Ooh, we have some weird colors here. This person's wearing like a unicorn hat or something. What are they doing? Archetypes with attitude? What is that? That looks interesting. That might be our raid tonight. That might be our raid tonight. Yeah, I think that's the one. I think that's the one. Let's find them again. Oh, I lost them. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna get that. Wait, hold on a second. No. Oh, wait a second. I changed my mind. Oh, here we go. Counterspell live. Oh, ooh. I think I've rated them before, actually. Yeah, we've rated them before. All right, let's go back to those guys. Let's go back to those guys. Counterspell live. Okay, let me get this set up. Give me a hot second here.